the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The agenda order, I'm going to switch up just a little bit this morning. Instead of public comments first, I'm going to move that down after the two pro-housing categories because I have Kara Longworth here. She's from Empire State Development. She's a regional director. Welcome, Kara.
Hi, good morning.
And we are also, Gwen O'Shea will be joining us shortly, and they both have short timeframes that they can join us for this morning. So we wanted to have Kara talk a little bit about the pro-housing community funding sources, where things stand for this year, a little bit of the timeline, because as we look at again whether or not we want to pick up the pro-housing communities resolution, I wanted Kara to talk about what possible funding sources are out there that we might be able to tap into, which was our reason for doing this, and Gwen O'Shea to talk about the necessity. The timeline is also very important to us. So, Kara, could I have you open a little bit? I know I had sent along to you some of the potential ones that Gwen had shared with us.
Sure, and thank you, Supervisor, and nice to see you all. As the Supervisor says, I'm the Regional Director of Empire State Development here on Long Island. I cover Nassau-Suffolk County, and Empire State Development is the state's main economic development agency. And as such, we also run the Regional Economic Development Council process, which is the strategic planning for the region for economic development, and encompasses a lot of other state agencies. And I think you mentioned in your email, Supervisor, that you are speaking with HCR at a later date, which is good because they have their own funding sources and they actually run the pro-housing project as well. So the budget, we're waiting for the budget to pass. Until the budget passes, the new round of the regional council won't be announced, but once it is, that will open. It typically opens sometime in May and closes sometime in the end of July, with awards being made usually late in the fall, November or December. So I can't tell you what's going to be in this year's regional council round because we don't know yet, but under the governor's executive order 30, which established the pro-housing communities, it lays out which programs are subject to pro-housing requirements. So a community cannot apply for funds under certain programs unless they are pro-housing certified. And one of them is the Empire State Development Capital Grants, which are the capital grants that run through my office. The Market New York capital grants, that's also an ESD program. That's all of our tourism money. So if you have tourism programs, capital projects that you want to do, you would need to be pro-housing certified before you could apply for that. The Regional Council Capital Fund, again, which is the capital money that runs through the Regional Council, through ESD. The New York Forward and DRI communities, you have to be pro-housing certified to apply for those. And the Long Island Investment Fund. Those are the ones that are, and there's also, I think, an infrastructure fund. So those are the funding sources that a municipality cannot apply for unless that they are pro-housing certified.
I also see Gwen, you were able to join us. You're muted. You're still muted. Oh, there we go. You're unmuted, but we're not hearing anything.
Hi there. I'm sorry. I'm just 2 minutes away from school drop off and then I'll be back on.
Okay. All right.
Just remember, slow down, tuck and roll.
I think the ones that we're most interested in, as far as making sure we're pro-housing qualified, is the New York Forward, because we fit into more of a rural community. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that to see whether or not that would be a fit.
So New York Forward, we're not sure when they'll be, those do not run through the normal regional council process. That's the Downtown Revitalization / New York Forward program. That's a DOS program that is managed by ESD, DOS, and HCR. So I don't know, the Downtown Revitalization is $10 million. The New York Forward is $4.5 million. We're now in round 10 of the DRI, I think round 4 of the New York Forward. We're about to announce this year's winners. The application was in the fall. And then it's a planning process where each DOS hires a planning firm for the community. We come into the community, we spend about 4 to 6 months working with a local committee that we set up, along with you. If you were to apply, Supervisor, you would be the co-chair, along with somebody from the regional council, working with the local people to develop a strategic plan and highlight projects for that $4.5 million funding. And similar program for the DRI, except it's considerably more money. It's $10 million. We've had great success with this project. I was just talking about it on a panel last week with the 5 Western supervisors, 5 Western Suffolk County supervisors. As I said, we've had 9 different communities that have won the $10 million, and it's made a significant difference. We've had 5 communities that have won the $4.5 million. And this project, not only is it that it's money to come seed projects, but they come with a plan. It's a professional planning firm that comes in and develops projects, reaches out to the community, comes up with design ideas, and then does a call for projects so people can apply for it. Some of the money can be public money, some of it's public projects, some of it is private projects. We try to balance that out so it's not all public or it's not all private. The idea of it really is to seed more projects. And I use the example of Riverhead. They won it a few years ago. And a lot of the funding went to their town square and other projects in their downtown. And because they had these projects underway, they were able to get, I think it was a $25 million award from the federal government to pursue further projects. So it's really a great program to come in, especially on a small community like you that you probably your planning department probably can't do everything in small communities, and it's the New York Forward in particular works well in small villages. We've done North Bellport, we've done Mineola, a few others I can't think off the bat, but I think anyone.
And Kara, didn't the Bellport deal? I'm sorry, didn't that also allow them to draw on some additional federal funds?
I don't know. I don't know if Bellport got additional funds from that, honestly. Probably. I mean, they were North Bellport was sewer money maybe from
Sewer money, yes, that's what I meant, that they got additional sewer money.
Yeah, from the past, yes, probably.
And Kara, that.
But nobody wants, every level of government likes to give money to something that's already planned, right? I mean, there is some planning money, but if you have a plan in place and you say, I need a definite amount of money to do X, that makes any application for funding, whether it's the county, state, or federal government, much more inclined to fund something when they see that the community is behind it, there's a plan in place, and a defined amount of money needed to pursue a project. So I think that's one of the best part of the New York Forward and DRI programs is that it establishes a plan that is voted on by local people, adopted by you supervisor. As I said, you would be co-chair of the committee. So it is a great project, and I think if you look back, if you Google it, you'll see all the communities that have won and are quite happy with the success.
And New York Forward is through your office?
So the New York Forward DRI, it's the DRI, it's the same program, just a junior version of it. It's technically run by the Department of State, but it's a collaboration between the Department of State, Empire State Development, and HCR, the Housing Community Renewal. So DOS is the one. So the REDC, the Regional Economic Development Council, which is run by my office, is the one that selects or nominates the community. We take in the applications. The regional council scores and votes on the community, and we make the recommendation to the Secretary of State. The Department of State actually is the one that hires the consultants to work with the community, and then when the projects are chosen, they can get sent to any one of the three agencies, depending on what the project is. If it's like a community infrastructure project, Department of State will manage it. If it's an economic development project, Empire State Development will take the money and manage it. If it's a housing related project, or a lot of communities do a community fund for facades, small business fund, HCR will handle it. So it's a collaboration between the three agencies.
But either way, the pro-housing legislation would have to be a part of it.
You're not eligible to apply unless you're a pro-housing certified community.
Great.
I also had a question about the pro-housing supply funds program. Is that a separate one, or is that run through your office?
That was part of last year's Regional Economic Development Council process. The governor had announced it in her State of the State and put it in the budget in 25. It is not currently in the state budget. It was not proposed again by the governor, but we do not have a budget passed yet. So I can't tell you whether or not that's going to be part of the Regional Council process this year.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And then Gwen, two other ones that you had put in here was the Regional Council Capital Funds and New York Main Street Program.
So I think Kara can speak more to this. I don't think the Main Street program is the CDBG funding, which goes through Suffolk County.
Mm-hmm.
And
right. So Long Island is not eligible for the Main Street program because the counties get the money directly from HUD for CDBG. Those are upstate regions that don't have consortiums or don't have counties that accept the money and divvy it up. So that program's Long Island communities aren't eligible to apply for that.
Okay. Does anyone know whether or not, because it goes directly to CDBG, do we need to have that pro-housing designation in order to tap into CDBG money for housing?
That money would come to you from Suffolk County. I'm sure you get an allotment every year already.
Yes, we do. We've been using it for handicap access and things like that, and senior related. Okay, all right.
It's a question for the county.
Yeah. Check that in.
Yeah, I think we have actually a quarterly call coming up with Sarah and Bran, so I'll just check back in.
And then the Regional Council Capital Funds.
Right, that's what money that comes through the Regional Council round, and you would be required, any money for that, you would be required to be a pro-housing certified community before you could apply.
But that's not specifically focused on housing?
So that's Empire State Development funding. Empire State Development, my agency doesn't directly fund housing, but we fund infrastructure for housing. So if you have a mixed use development or some other project that may have housing as connected to it, we could fund the commercial piece of it or some infrastructure, but we can't fund the actual housing itself.
Okay. And then, like we had that list from Gwen, is there any that we're missing?
As I said, the money that, according to the governor's executive order 30, which sets up the pro-housing, is Empire State Development grants, Market New York grants, capital grants, which are tourism money. So any tourism entity, like a park or something that you were trying to, rehab or fix, or that would be a tourist attraction, a capital grant for that. The Regional Council Capital Grant, the New York Forward, and the Long Island Investment Fund are all required to be pro-housing certified.
And Gwen, do you think any of those would fit for our project?
I think, I certainly think the pro-housing supply funds would certainly be a benefit. I don't know, Kara, if you know timing wise, let's just say the board did move forward with the resolution, would the town be eligible in the upcoming round for any funds, let's just say, that require that certification? How long does that process take?
To get certified?
Yes.
Have you started the process? Have you put in the letter of intent and been working with HCR on the documentation? Or are you starting from scratch?
We have a letter of intent submitted. We did that 2 years ago.
Okay,
And,
and they, so, okay. And then, so they told you what you need to they want your zoning information, they want your building
Yes.
permits, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
it's as fast as you can get it into them, you know, it's because it's been a couple of years now, they don't have the tremendous backlog. You know, they will, you know, I'm sure they would work as quickly as possible, or you pass the resolution, which is even faster.
Mhm.
But Gwen, I do not know that the pro housing infrastructure fund will be in the round this year. It was not in the governor's budget.
Okay, okay. So I think we'd have to, dig a little bit deeper, and I think my suggestion would be that the town move forward with getting certified, so that regardless of what is available through the CFA, that you're in a position to be able to apply for it. I mean, I think that would make the most sense.
Is there, I mean, not to step out of line, but is there any concerns with becoming certified?
The biggest is whether or not we're giving up any home rule with
You are
respect to
not.
the state
You're
coming in and telling us what we have to do. And
No. You could ask any community that's already pro certified. There's nothing about us coming in and taking, the state has no control over it whatsoever. All it does is it allows you to apply for funding.
And we do have someone coming in on the 14th of April to talk about, from HCR,
Mhm.
to talk about the getting certified and just following up on that, those questions.
Yeah, there's like I said, there's nothing in the legislation, there's nothing in the executive order. There's, it's been out there for a couple of years now. There's a few dozen communities on Long Island that are pro certified. You could speak with any of them. There's, no way, shape, or form is the state coming in and taking away your zoning powers or your planning powers or telling you what to do. It's just, it's just an encouragement. It's a carrot, as the governor says, not a stick. It's a carrot to encourage communities to think about housing options for residents, and therefore making funding available to communities that are open to it.
Thanks for that clarification. I was also thinking some of this is interesting as we think about the facilities master plan. So it might also have a dual use here.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Even if whatever it does come out in the governor's budget is not specific for our development that we're working on, I think there definitely will be opportunities for the town overall to access additional resources.
Yeah, the Empire
Yeah.
State Development.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yeah, I was
Really
going to say,
appreciate
Kara, I don't know if you have, we've gone past the 15-minute mark, but I know you had availability.
My meeting got pushed to 9:30, so I do have a few more minutes. If there's any other
Okay.
questions, I'm happy to stay on.
Thanks so much, Kara.
Any other questions from the board?
if you have any.
Is there anyone in the public who has any questions? Yeah, come up to the podium.
Yeah, this question about the home rule, that we're giving up home rule, that you raised, that's a really important one. Because it seems to be, it's not a carrot, it's a stick, because basically the communities who would like to tap some of the New York State funds are held hostage to adopting this resolution. And this resolution, among other things, says to eliminate barriers to multifamily housing and other stuff. It could be anything, and that's not even permitted right now, okay? So I took a few minutes to look at those programs that were listed in those bullet points, and none of them is applicable to affordable housing and so forth. It's more like helping businesses, renovate facades, renovate some historical building and so forth. Yet the resolution is about something completely different. So I do have concerns, which I already voiced at the town board meetings a couple of weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago. So there's nothing that I've heard today that would persuade me that this is a good idea to adopt this housing this housing resolution, for housing resolution in exchange for some vague promises of maybe some funding could be available in the future for something. Okay, so,
Did you have a question?
no, I had a statement.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, actually, maybe the presenters could say which program is applicable to affordable housing or, community housing, whatever we call it. Because I couldn't find anything that's applicable here. Thank you.
Right, well, so first of all, this is just to make it very clear, this is only discretionary funding. This is not the money, any funding that the town has as of right. So, this is discretionary funding that, of all the programs that the governor listed in the executive order is discretionary. So as I said, there's no violation of home rule. There's no holding back money that a community is entitled to. This is just discretionary funding, which we have always, for the last 15 years, Empire State Development and the regional councils have developed strategic plans, and we strategically make decisions on where and how to fund projects based on the policy initiatives of the region and the state. So it's no different than anything that we've ever done before with discretionary funding. Secondly, ESD, through many of its programs, have supported affordable housing projects. As Gwen can tell you, we just brought to the board $1 million grant, or $2 million grant? Oh, $1 million grant, I think, Gwen, for a project that she... $2 million, okay. A $2 million infrastructure grant through the regional council that her project in Hempstead, affordable housing mixed-use project in Hempstead. So the ESD capital grants, the regional council grants, New York Forward, DRI, LIFT, but I don't think you're eligible for LIFT because you would need a much larger project. All those programs could support housing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom who has a question? I did have, for you, Gwen, I just wanted to just talk briefly about timetable. As far as our 10-unit project goes, we've signed the non-binding letter of intent, and we're going to start working on some financial information to see whether or not, what our project could look like financially and how we get it paid for and keep it affordable. So with respect to timing on all of this, Gwen, can you walk us through a little bit of when that part of the process might be done? Because if we are going to look at any of these grant opportunities, I think we have to do the financial analysis first, then start to look at grants. And if we have a window from May when they come out to July when they're due, I want to try and understand that timing, because that also impacts how we move forward with whether to adopt or not adopt this resolution.
Sure. So as you noted, you should be receiving today via FedEx, my colleague, my partner on the development signed the agreement. So you'll have both of our signatures on that in your office today. And we appreciate that, you all getting that over to us. It's my understanding, I think your council is going to start working on the actual operating agreement for the development. And then simultaneously, we're going to start doing some financial analysis of the development. My colleague is going to be out on Shelter Island shortly, actually talking with a number of GCs to start putting together some financial modeling so we could get a better handle on what at this point in time those actual costs look like, so that we're in a good position to, should the town pass the resolution, be able to apply and talk with Kara and her team about sources once that application window opens.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I do also have someone coming in from HDR on the 14th, as I noted, who can talk to us just a little bit more about the proposed resolution itself, as well as, any of their funding sources. I didn't realize that some of those went through them directly and not through ESD. So I think for like this, I had broken this topic down into 2 items, pro-housing communities funding sources, which is what Cara and Gwen were here for. Our next topic was the community housing communities proposed resolution. So if no one else has any questions, I'll let Cara and Gwen go, and we can move on to what was item number 3, and then we'll go to public comments, and then the rest of the agenda.
Just one question. So Gwen, where in the timeline will we find out what the funding package actually is and what's required as part of the funding package that you're thinking about?
I'm sorry, can you say that, ask that again?
Where in the timeline will we find out what the funding package is that you're proposing? And exactly what programs you want to access?
So I think that that's going to come right around the time that we would be looking to apply for the CFA funds, right? I think we've got to take a look at both the AMI structure and then what resources, I mean, first and foremost is taking a look at what it's going to take to construct and then what it's going to cost to maintain the property, right? And that is then, I think, going to drive what the AMIs can be for that development or need to be for that development. And if there are resources that match that area median income, because for which you'll hear when the representative from HCR comes to speak with you all, there are certain caps to be able to access some of these resources. So whether it's 80% of the area median income, 100% of the area median income, depending on where we land and where the town wants to land related to AMIs is going to impact the sources that are available, if that makes sense.
No, it does. But so the timing of all this is part of the problem because it takes some time to get set up for the pro-housing piece. And by the time we have to apply for the pro-housing piece, so, okay.
I hear you. I mean, I think it's doable based on what Cara was sharing in terms of the process to approve. Again, I'm not a board member, so I don't want to say what, you should or shouldn't do. But in my perspective, I think having as many resources available, understanding the high cost of construction right now, the better off it is to get a development over the finish line.
If we're looking at trying to figure out the timing for this, we need to next work on the resolution, and we had started some things that we can go back to and talk about. Those have been handed out and posted on the website. So it would be whether or not we'd be setting a public hearing for April 6th, or do we set the public hearing April 27th, which then gives us an opportunity, which I don't think we're going to finish up what we need to do on the resolution today. And it gives us a chance to bring in HCR. So maybe we set the public hearing on the 27th, which means we'd have the public hearing on May 18th. And then what I had been able to find out so far, just going through the websites and read emails back and forth with HCR, is up to 90 days for them to approve it. But I think it was Carol who said that they're not as backlogged as they were 2 years ago, so it might not take 90 days. But if it were to take 90 days, it would completely knock us out of funding opportunities.
Supervisor, I just want to mention most of the funding opportunities, as long as you have applied and your application's complete, you can apply. You just can't receive the grant until you're certified. That's the way we've always done it in the past. So, because it takes time after you submit your application. Like if you're going to apply for a regional council project, as I mentioned, you have to have the application in before the end of July, and then we make awards later in the fall. So there is that lead time. But in order to apply, you have to, and for New York Forward and DRI the same way, you have to at least have your full application in to HCR, because then the burden, of course, falls to HCR, and we work with them to make sure you get certified before the award. Because we can't go into contract with you or give you an award unless you're certified. But you can apply as long as you've completed your application.
Okay. All right. That's
a little bit more time.
Yeah, that's good to know.
And I'm sorry, I do
helpful.
have to run now. So, but if I'm anytime, reach out to me in my office. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
That
Thank you
was
so
very
much
helpful.
for joining us.
Thanks, Kara.
You're welcome.
And Gwen, I know you have a short window as well. I don't know when you need to jump.
Yeah, I've got about 5 more minutes if anyone has any additional questions.
Okay.
That little piece of information was very helpful, only because the disconnect for me is not home rule.
Mhm.
Disconnect for me is, we don't know what financing package we're gonna be looking at and whether or not we need this for it.
Mhm.
And as soon as we know that, but that, it may be too late to get it, so we do have a timing issue.
Yes.
But the home rule issue is not a problem.
Yes. Cool. But yeah, I knew that on at least one of these, that you just needed to have your letter of intent in. I didn't realize you had to have the whole application in. I did know that you needed to have the approval in place before you could receive the funds. So it sounds like there's more of those and not just the one that I was looking at. So that's promising. So I feel a little bit more comfortable, like we don't need to rush to try and set the public hearing by next week. We have time to work on it before the 27th and bring in HCR. But we really can't push it much beyond that, I don't think. If we're going to really try and make anything happen if we need to.
No. Election time is always a good thing.
Mhm. All right, since we're on pro-housing, let's move to item agenda number 3, which is now item number 2, just the proposed resolution. Thank you, Gwen, you can stay on and listen if you'd like, but I don't think we'll be circling back.
Thank
with any
you.
other-
Thanks so much. I appreciate everybody's time today. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Aye. So what had been distributed to you was the model resolution, then the proposed resolution that we had worked on back a year ago, which we had added. The only change that we had made was where it's the town board has on this date adopted an accompanying statement of legislative intent. And that was the companion statement that I believe you were the primary drafter of the companion statement. And I had a brief conversation with, there's Kara, there's Gwen, and there is, I don't remember the other person's name that's coming in. Last name's Rasmussen, Karis Rasmussen. Had a brief conversation with her. She's the woman from HCR. And what she had said is that in the model resolution, we've got a bunch of whereas clauses. And we haven't modified those except for putting in this accompanying statement of legislative intent. So it seems like that might be okay as long as we do not modify the therefore be it resolved. So those 5 items are the items that need to stay in. And she'll go over this more with us on the 14th.
I was, I think I had asked, Thomas, I know I put it out to you. I know that you had brought up the issue of home rule, and, I think my understanding was different. So I was just wondering if, like, your questions about home rule had been answered, or I know I'd asked to put together like a memo on it, just because I'm not a lawyer, right? But I just wanted to kind of check in around that.
Yeah, everything that I'm hearing from the different people, Gwen, who's been dealing with other, municipalities with this, Kara, and then also Karis and also just some of the supervisors, talking in other towns and people coming from the state over the past couple of years, is that there isn't a loss of home rule, that there's nothing in here that says you positively must do this, that you must,
But yeah, that's how I
must.
had understood it, but I also just wanted to make sure, like, maybe, again, not a lawyer, so I just wanted to make sure there was like maybe nothing in there or like a specific concern that we hadn't addressed at this point.
I think some of those concerns are still lingering from the very first proposal that Governor Hochul put out, which did, have home rule implications, which was pushed back. So then this is the modified version that came out after that took care of that problem. But I think that's just where that stemmed from.
Okay.
It's like old thought based on the original
Okay,
proposal that has then been modified
got
or
it.
changed.
Yeah, I guess because I kept looking
Yeah.
at this one, and I'm just like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Great. And I think that like last summer, I know I kind of put this together, and then Ben, you were able to do some editing, which is awesome. And so I guess my question is, do we want to include this companion statement with it, just to kind of clarifies what we want to do? Or do we think, I know it then, like we've kind of talked about like, oh, we should add it, and then we're like, oh, is it necessary?
Yeah, and I think that's really the conversation that we need to have, is what do we want to do with this? Because what Karis had said was that other communities have put in, like, in their whereas clauses, this is what we've done for housing so far.
Uh-huh.
This is where we want to go with housing. So I feel like I don't like to have legislation where, like the accompanying statement of legislative intent. That doesn't get easily incorporated in E-code when people are looking for things.
So you're thinking to maybe incorporate
Yes.
in there?
That would be my preference. I don't know, Thomas, if you've got experience with, how that works, like incorporating versus actually writing it into the legislation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a resolution, so it's not gonna be like, part of the town code, right?
Right.
Okay, but yeah, I think if your resolution refers to another document, like, it should probably be part of the resolution.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really think it's necessary because we have our housing plan and that gets updated. And so, I mean, that's sort of, I don't know, I feel like it's another level of complication. And I think that there's it's kind of stating what's already known.
I mean, I don't oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I don't know that I think it complicates things and leaves, I don't know, I think it could just become more of an issue than,
I agree with you, Meg. I just think that the model resolution, if we're gonna move forward with it,
yeah,
let's
just,
focus on the model resolution.
I mean, we could also just take out the whereas clause, and we could just issue the companion statement as just like a message to the community to clarify our intent. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be part of it, but maybe for folks that have questions, like,
yeah.
I think it's great that it does provide color on kind of what we're thinking, because the pro-housing community is like a resolution, it's just like a one size fits all. So I think it kind of, the companion statement does kind of speak to how we imagine it impacting our community,
Right.
or like what our vision is. So I think that that's useful for the community, but maybe not necessary for the legislation. I don't know.
No, I would agree. I mean, it's a good piece to share with the community on how we got
Yeah.
to the point of considering the resolution. But I think when passing the resolution itself, it just kind of, it's like you were saying, when you're
Yeah.
like, here's the resolution, now find this companion statement that's not part of the resolution. And then trying to incorporate all that into the resolution seems unwieldy, yes.
Well, it might be helpful the companion statement will be part of the public hearing and will be discussed by the public. So at least it'll be in the record that way. But is there anything else that we want to put in the whereas clauses? As you all know, whereas clauses are not part of the legislation. They're just a statement of legislative intent and have no impact. Everything below that, after the now therefore, that is the legislation. So is there anything we want to say? I mean, we don't have to answer that right now, but we should be thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering, like, the last section, projected outcomes of pro-housing designation. Would those be some whereases you'd want to put? Yeah, those could work. Those are more broad statements. I think some of the earlier stuff was
It's too
getting.
nitty gritty.
Yes.
And that's why I
That's
got bogged
exactly what
down
I
in
was
it.
gonna
I was
say,
like,
yeah.
it's too much.
Mhm.
But I think that if we're saying whereas we're striving for these outcomes, that makes, we could incorporate that easier than the entire 3-page document.
Leave it as is. We've got incorporate that section, think about it some more, we pick it back up next time.
Agnostic. I was like,
We've got a little bit more time. We
Yeah.
can think about it.
Mhm.
But the model is the better choice.
The model as is.
Yeah. Well, the model, I mean, we can modify it there, I suppose. You can't touch the rest of it anyway.
Correct, yes. All right, so take a look at it. We can clean up the draft that we have. Let's just change it here and. Okay, we'll pick it back up next week. Thank you. Now we'll go back to public comments. Pam?
Yeah, hi there. Good morning. I just want to get a clarification on this. It's my understanding for the pro-housing community certification, you can either adopt this resolution or you can file a full application in which you have to give them data on like the official zoning map and all the other things that are in the application. So has the town board considered just filing an application for this pro-housing community certification? Because
Sure.
that is my understanding, that you could do one or the other. That's all.
No, the two approaches are you can just qualify, you file the application and all of your numbers. Let me just see, I have it here, program requirements. So.
Right, that's what
Your-
I'm saying. That's all you
Right.
need to do is
Right,
is
but
file
we
the
don't
application.
qualify.
we don't qualify. We, Meg already kind of crunched the numbers and we don't qualify to be able to do it that way. Basically, it's saying, hey, we already are kind of acting as a pro-housing community and we have a certain amount of housing stock, but we don't. So that path is closed to us, unfortunately.
Yeah, so if you qualify with your numbers, which is, since we're downstate, 3%, or 1% in a year, or 3% over the past 3 years, then you submit your zoning map, your zoning code summary, and your housing plan and building permit information, which shows that you qualified for that 1% or 3%. If you don't qualify automatically, then you have to do the pro-housing community resolution, and you still file your zoning map and your zoning code summary and your building, planning and building permit information for the past 5 years. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. That explains that. I was a little bit confused. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and as far as timing, when I was thinking through it, my concern was that we were starting from scratch, but we had done it.
I did for
Over-
2024. I did 2019 to 2024.
Okay, good, so we would just have to update for 2025. So it won't take us as long to pull together that information.
And just so you know, we needed a 3% growth rate and we are at a 2.56% growth rate. So we don't meet that statistic.
Very good. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
And I seem to have lost my second screen. David Lopez, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, hi, good morning. It's David Lopez. I sent a letter into the board last night regarding the hearing schedule for the discussion of the 2026 comprehensive plan draft. I'd like to read that into the record.
At work sessions, we don't have things read into the record because it's not a meeting that has minutes. It's our town board work session. We just allow the public to come in and make public comments. But at the next town board meeting, which is Monday, April 6th, we can have that letter read into the record then.
All right, well then, can I make a couple of general comments about the scheduling for the review of the comp plan?
Sure.
Okay. I think the basic issue is that that I'm concerned about is that if you're on track to set a meeting in April, I think that that is quite rushed from the public's perspective. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that a lot of time has passed since this topic was last in the public's view. And so a lot of people are scrambling around right now to try to refresh their recollections with respect to the prior commentary that was given, the prior testimony, and then trying to sit down and compare where we were versus the 200 plus page draft. It's just a time consuming process. And there's a certain amount of re-education that we all have to do in order to get ourselves back up to speed. So trying to have a hearing in April seems it seems overly ambitious and I think counterproductive at the end of the day. I guess the other thing that I would mention is that people are actually having trouble getting copies of some of the prior comments and testimony. There isn't really a central repository for it. There are FOIL requests that are being produced, but those take time. And then, going through the cycle of getting the town's responses also takes time. So it's another reason why an April hearing to me at least seems very ambitious and premature. There are some other points that are made in the letter, but I'll defer that until the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. As far as an April public hearing, at this point, that will not happen because we as a town board are still going through the current draft and coming up with our comments and collecting them all back up to get incorporated into the draft. So the earliest we could set a public hearing now is we would set the public hearing at the April 27th meeting, which would then be a May 14th, I believe it is, timeframe. So we are still a month and a half away before even the first public hearing, and I'm quite sure that there will be more than one public hearing. So
okay, well, then just one follow-up comment, which is that obviously Shelter Island is a seasonal community, and having a hearing after Memorial Day would ensure that a lot more people, a lot more voters are on the island and able to really participate in a fulsome way. So I would recommend that you at least keep that in mind.
yes, I would imagine, and I misspoke on the dates, May 18th would be the probable first public hearing. So the second one would be after Memorial Day. So we keep pushing ourselves to get it moving again, but again, it takes time. So the best laid plans of mice and men.
Great, thanks.
I saw Pam's hand go up first.
Yeah, just a quick question then. If May 18th would be the target date for the first public hearing, then you would have the document posted by April 18th?
We would have the document posted by April 27th at the latest, because that's when we would set the public hearing. So we'll see how this month goes with incorporating our town board comments so that we can get it to the public.
Okay, thanks. I'll keep watching.
Yes. Young? And last time I forgot to say, state your name for the record.
Jan Sudor, South of the Island. So how many public hearings are there envisioned? Because this is a massive document of 10 chapters, plus the appendix which summarizes all the goals. So it's a massive document, lots of areas. So is that gonna be, one public hearing per area or one public hearing per chapter or what?
I envision at least two. I think the first one, we would open it up to the public and see, what happens at the first one, and then have a second one, probably on a Saturday. So we'd have a Monday night and then a Saturday one. And then we'd see from there whether or not we would adjourn or close. Then depending on what the comments are, it would come back to us. If we make some changes to the document, then we would have to post that for public hearing again. So at a minimum, there'll be two, most likely
Yeah, I mean,
more.
3 or 4.
yes,
Mhm.
it's also insufficient. I mean, just want to refer you to one town of Southhold, the comprehensive plan, and they have professional planning department. This, planner and deputy planner and so forth. They had hundreds of meetings on various areas, going back, utilities, housing, this, that, and so forth, okay? And here we're gonna rush through 200 documents.
We've already done that for the past 4 years. We've had meetings on every chapter, we've had public input on
Not the
every
public,
chapter.
Not the public,
Yes,
just the
John.
feedback.
You've participated in many of these events.
Yeah, and I had a 3-minute comment at the end. Again, just look at the experience of town of Southhold, what public input did they gather, discussing various chapters. We had one public meeting way back in 2023, where I had one comment, I was cut off after 3 minutes because there was under Siller administration when they had 3 meetings, okay?
And this is the Brock Williams administration who doesn't cut people off after 3 minutes. So
Yes, but
there
then
will
you
be
put
plenty
asterisk,
of
you have
time.
asterisk, because it's not the people out to speak at all, okay? So, but that's not the point, okay? The point here is that this is a massive document and covering all the areas, many areas of the island, and that requires proper public input,
And
okay? Not 1 or 2 meetings and we're done.
point taken, we will see how it
Okay.
goes. Anyone else on public comments? Okay, we will now go to, next is the ICE enforcement update by the police department. We have Chief Reed here.
Good morning. I prepared some notes, just so I can stay kind of on track and make sure I cover some very important points of discussion. As you know, we had a town board executive session on this topic, and one of the things that Councilman Diet mentioned was maybe getting out in front of it with a little more public discussion. That's been supported by the board, so I prepared some notes so that I can kind of stay on task and make sure I hit really important points. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today and provide some clarity on how the Shelter Island Police Department operates. I want to begin with something that is fundamental to our department. The Shelter Island Police Department is committed to fair and impartial policing, professional service, and the protection of public safety for everyone in our community, treating all individuals with dignity and respect, regardless of their immigration status. It is a core part of how we operate. These principles are embodied in our policies, in our training, and in our daily practice. Our officers understand that members of this community must feel safe when they call the police, whether to report a crime, ask for help, or assistance in an investigation. Maintaining that trust is essential to effective policing and to the safety of our entire community. Over the past several weeks, and probably a month now, there has been discussion regarding a proposed local law related to public safety and immigration enforcement, along with the concerns stemming from activity in our neighboring communities. I understand that this has raised questions about what role, if any, the Shelter Island Police play in these matters. This morning, I'd like to provide some clarity in our role, as well as outline the policies, practices, and the procedures we already have in place. We are a local, and I repeat, local law enforcement agency. Our responsibility is public safety and the enforcement of criminal law. We do not enforce civil immigration law. That responsibility lies with federal agencies. Our focus is and will remain serving and protecting the Shelter Island community. I'd like to share a brief personal perspective. About 40 years ago, when I was in the police academy learning the different aspects of law, it was stressed to us that immigration law was one area we did not enforce. At the time, I remember thinking, we enforce so many other laws. Why not that one? I didn't really fully understand it. Looking back now, especially in light of everything we're seeing nationally and in our region, I do understand, and I'm grateful for that distinction. Maintaining public trust is critical to what we do. People need to feel safe coming forward as victims, witnesses, or simply asking for help. Blurring that line would undermine the trust and, in my view, would fundamentally change who we are as a local police department and what we represent to this community. We also have formal policies in place that guide how we operate, including policies that reinforce fair and impartial policing and a comprehensive policy governing the use of license plate readers, including data access, auditing, retention, and privacy protections. We follow New York State law in investigating all criminal activity, including the rare, and I repeat, very rare, especially in our community, instance of someone impersonating a law enforcement officer. From an operational standpoint, many of the key areas reflected in this proposed legislation are already addressed in existing law, department policy, and our current practices. That includes fair and impartial policing standards, our role with respect to immigration enforcement, oversight through the town board as police commission, and our policies governing technology such as license plate readers. Shelter Island, as we all know, is a small community of roughly 3,200 year-round residents, which grows to approximately 8,000 to 10,000 people during the peak summer season. Everyone here understands that seasonal change, but that does not change access. In a community like ours, direct access to government, elected officials, and the police department is a part of our everyday fabric. That access exists every day and allows concerns to be raised, discussed, and addressed in real time, whether through direct contact, public meetings like this one today, or additional sessions when needed. The town board also serves as the police commission and provides direct oversight of the department, ensuring that concerns can be addressed openly and directly. I understand that these are important issues to members of the community, and I welcome the opportunity to continue this dialogue, answer questions, and provide clarity on how we operate. Many may ask, and I've heard this from us and asked myself, if these practices, policies, and procedures are already in place, why not simply support adopting the legislation? And it's a fair question. From my perspective, that issue is not whether we agree with the principles, because we do. The question is whether adopting this local law meaningfully improves public safety or changes how we operate. In our case, these standards already are in place through existing law, department policy, and daily practices. And they are subject to direct oversight by you, the town board and police commission. In a small community like Shelter Island, where residents have direct access to the police department and town leadership, concerns can be raised and addressed in real time. That level of access and accountability already exists, and it works. My concern that adding legislation in this area may create an additional requirement, reporting obligations, and potentially legal exposure without improving how we serve this community. From an operational standpoint, I believe that the framework we have already in place accomplishes the goals the legislation seeks to address. Our goal is simple: to serve the community professionally, fairly, and with respect to everybody that lives here, regardless of their immigration status. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, great.
Anyone at the table have any questions for Chief?
I do. So one of the concerns that is brought up is that if ICE is conducting an enforcement action and they do arrest somebody, it's hard to track that person as they move through the process. because it's not following the typical protocols. Are you and your department in communications with the feds trying to organize a way to keep track of people who maybe in your community have been taken so that you understand where they are in the system, so to speak?
It's a great question, and look, the concerns we share as a community and a board are reflected throughout the East End, as you well know. And one of the things that we're working on as the East End Chiefs of Police Organization is that very problem. We feel as a group and share that concern. One of the things that we're asking of Homeland Security and Immigration Enforcement is that if they were to come to our community, and that hasn't occurred yet, if they were to come here, that they would be able to report to us really three things: who they've taken, why they've taken them, and where they're taking them to. We owe that to our community, and we owe it to the people that are involved in that. So that is something we're actively working on, and I hope to have a clearer answer. But we share that concern as a police group.
Thank you.
I did have a question. So I really appreciate your statement and clarifying the police policy. It doesn't surprise me that most of it's already in there. So, that's always awesome. I guess my question was specifically just because there's been so many questions from the community about the OLA legislation. You said that some of the policies are already reflected in code and some of them are just in like practices and police policy. And so I guess my question is there, what things in the OLA legislation are not already reflected in code? And obviously and that are just in policy, which is obviously, and practice, which is more changeable. So I'm wondering if are there pieces of the OLA legislation that would codify some of that in maybe a more formal sense? So, and then the other question was, as you mentioned, concerns around potential legal exposure and adopting the OLA legislation. So I was just wondering if you could kind of provide some more color for your concerns around that.
Yeah, so I would say a simple example is during the most recent incident report, right? So when I had knowledge of that, I was in full conversation and the supervisor back up. That I had a conversation with the police chief in Southold immediately. There's nothing in policy that says, if there's an incident that you have to call the Southold, but it's a practice of how we operate, right? So when I had that information, I did reach out to the town supervisor, right? So is that clearly stated somewhere? No, but look, you're the police commissioner. If you tell us operationally it's something we want, we don't need to draft that legislation to do that. I like to keep us small and nimble. We have that direct access. It works really well, So I think the methodology is already there. If there were areas that in a further review that you felt maybe needed a little cleaning up or a little codifying in policy, we could simply do that. I don't need that we need to be bound to a legislation and on a presumptive that we would maybe adopt it in code. That would be another layer. And then to change that, it becomes very complex. So I would say that there's areas that might not be written in word, but are in practice, right? So, everything we do in training, we train frequently on these things is, you get in a training model and it becomes the practice of the agency that everything can't be written in code. So
that's helpful.
But I'm glad to continue to look at it. This isn't an end point. It's a beginning, right? Or a midpoint, because you've had some of these discussions or concerns raised by residents. We're following up with those questions and concerns, and I think we can keep moving forward.
I think our big opportunity, at least that I see, is I feel like we have a lot of opportunity around communication. I know we've been working together on the hazard mitigation plan, right? And so it's as part of that, it's always okay, if X happens, then we do Y, right? It's all those plans. And I feel maybe between the police department and the town board, it doesn't yeah, and here's hoping that we don't have to deal with that. But if we were, it doesn't seem clear, I know we've talked about that before, what our plan is, and not necessarily that we need to do a specific thing, but I think in getting good information out there, I know that that's just been a challenge, and I think that that's an area where we can really improve, like between us, because I think that was one of probably the biggest challenges I know, and we spoke about this before, of just like lack of good information, or getting that information so late that, we weren't able to provide the community with the information that we did have. And so I think that was a real challenge. I think that that's one of the parts I think that we absolutely can do better on, so.
Look, we're always looking for opportunities to improve communication in these discussions. I think this helps to do those kinds of things, so absolutely, zero wrong.
Yeah.
Working with you and developing some better communication, but factual communication is the key.
Absolutely. Well, that's
where
well, I mean, and that's really the key, right? It's just like, maybe we don't have all the information, but the real information that we do know, being able to share that, I think can go a long way.
I think our greatest weakness is what Meg had brought up in having an understanding, who, right? So, and where, right? And why. So those are our weakest points right now, and I think that we need to get some resolution on that.
They're out of our control. And they're out of our control. Yes.
I know that Southold had put together, which I thought was great, in advance of like, they're considering the OL legislation. But one of the things I thought was great was they actually put together, and I don't imagine that it will, at least from my understanding, will meet forever, but just a task force to kind of consider, is it right for the community? And, if it's not right, what are the other things that maybe need to happen? And like, just having identified that we potentially have some room to grow with like communication. So I just wanted to put forward to this board, maybe we consider doing something kind of similar to just like more in-depth consider that and see if it is a good fit for the community. And if it's not, if there's something else that is better, or just, like a communication policy or, something like that. I think that at least I had kind of thought about, in looking at the composition of the Southold committee, like, again, it was a task force. It's like 2 town board members, 2 folks from PD, maybe 2 folks from health and wellness, and maybe 2 folks from the school, just to meet a couple times and potentially bring that back to the board. So I don't know what this board and you potentially think about that, Chief.
Yeah, I was thinking for the next step, we could do what Southold had done when they just last week, I think it was on Wednesday evening, had their task force meeting to air out what to do with the legislation. I'm not exactly sure what the outcome was. We could do something like that. It's not to be long-lived. It was just to look at the legislation. And then if they adopt the legislation, then there was a provision, I believe, to then have a task force.
Right, it's included, it was like a little bit of like, kind of, I thought that the task force that was in the legislation, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I wonder if I think Southold maybe start with that to just consider it, so.
Yeah, if we were to do it, I'd want to have like just a very focused mission to start with.
Oh, absolutely. And I would imagine that it would just be maybe like ask them to meet 1 or 2 times and then kind of bring the findings back to the town board to pick up. So I don't know if everybody would be open to something like that.
It would be more of an internal working group, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then obviously the findings would be,
It's not internal if we have schools.
Right.
Yeah, certain internal, right, so,
Yeah, it's not we'd have-
just going back to frequent questions we
Yeah.
have from the
Right.
public is open
Structure.
public meetings,
Right.
somebody taking minutes, just
Great point.
I'm not
great
trying
point.
to.
No, I mean, I think having it in
Yep,
public, but I wonder if it would, if we were just talking about one or two meetings, if that
Mhm.
wouldn't be too much of a
It's an
stretch?
easier lift.
Does that feel plausible?
Oh,
Okay.
it's clip time?
I have to work that out,
Okay.
to figure out who's got some availability, but we'll work on that. It'll be open
Maybe
for
the
somebody.
school can help, do they have someone?
But if we're putting it together, it should be under our,
Right.
under our jurisdiction. We can't make them do it.
Okay.
I think the open public is huge for a big control.
Absolutely.
No, I think it would have to be an open.
I think, and, you know, and
I believe the Southhold one was.
yeah, that's just my understanding.
Yeah.
And I think also it would just give those folks that are really concerned about this specific issue, like that, you know, just a space to kind of talk through it publicly. And I think also to kind of hear more about how the police department's policy as it stands. I think that the more people understand that,
Right, gives
exactly.
So
So,
Supervisor, I also recommend that you have a chair, right?
Yes.
And run,
Oh, yes, definitely. So, yeah, we need to, like,
it's just.
we're not gonna put it on you.
No.
We need
you're gonna cheer that one too.
to do this.
More else for that.
Yeah.
I think, like, we won't keep you standing there forever. Your initial statement, if we could get that and have it posted on the town website and maybe also on the police department's page as well. That would be good, because we did repost, the town board statement from last month, just to get it higher up in the stack.
I'll put it up, you know.
Yeah, and then, I was gonna say, send it to Christina to post on the town board website, and I know Jen can try to take care of it from your end.
Thanks so much for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great statement.
So while we're on the ice enforcement, the task force, we do have a town board meeting on Monday, so do we want to try and like
I mean, I would.
constitute the task force,
Yeah.
resolution at that meeting?
Yeah.
I would very much.
Reach out to the school and make sure that they want to participate.
I can reach out.
Yeah. And then, if they do, then, yeah.
I will reach out this afternoon and report back.
Do you have someone in mind to chair this, who's involved in the process?
Well, I think it should be someone from the town board. If
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
The chair,
that was gonna-
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we are the police commission, so
Yeah.
I think that tie-in, like, we are in charge, so.
Okay.
So the question is which two town board members?
I wanna-
I was gonna say, I already know Liz.
I was like, clearly, I'm very interested. I'd be happy to chair if it's helpful, but
Anybody else volunteering? Or will it be me? The default person. Okay, it'll be me. Which is probably good anyways, because I do talk to the other town supervisors and kind of like up to date where everybody is on it.
Yeah.
And if for some reason you can't do it, I can do it.
Yes.
look at that, a plan comes together.
Okay, all right, and so Shelby will work on drafting a resolution for Monday. I know you're trying to get the agenda done early because of the holiday on Friday. All right, any questions from the public? Evan,
Hey, thank you so much. I just want to first say thanks
if you could
to,
just state your name for the record.
I beg your pardon, Evan Gilliman.
Mhm.
I'm a resident on Shelter Island. I want to say thanks to the chief and thanks to all of you for the hard work here. So we have had a home here for 25 years and we have benefited from all the remarkable work you guys do. And I know it's not easy. So just leading with a great thanks. I just wanted to quickly express, I guess, I had two thoughts in looking at this legislation. My first is I work as a first responder in Queens and Brooklyn. I sit on the board of an organization that does a lot of consulting with law enforcement. And I do a few calls on Shelter Island. I should be doing more, but I would just say we have an exceptional police force. I mean, we really, in terms of presence, strength, understanding, it really is great. You know, I look at like the folks I work with in Queens and Brooklyn, they're good, they're professional. 99% of the time, they're very strong. Shelter Island is different. Like there's just an understanding of the community and the people and all of that that I think makes our police force really unique and exceptional. So I would lead with that. That is partly what makes me wonder about or want to have some kind of legislation that memorializes that. I just think we've got such a strong force. The more we know that they are involved, and the more probably that at a public level, everybody in the community understands what they're doing and what the policies are, the better. So I read the legislation as not necessarily trying to impose extra requirements on SIPD, which I probably would not be in favor of, but more clarifying the communication protocol. So when something happens, how do you get it out to the community quickly? How do people know what's going on? And you guys talked about that. That's probably more at the board level, but it's part of that legislation. And also making, I think the idea of a task force where we're recognizing that things have changed a little bit in the last couple of years. And I think that's really true. Unfortunately, policies that worked really well 5 years ago, it's just a different moment in the same way, like, if there were rising tides or a different ecological necessity, you have to respond. So I'd be in favor of the task force for sure that you all talked about, and maybe using that as a way to examine the legislation, see if there are pieces of it that we would want to pick up. And, at the very least, make sure that the rest of the community is aware and understands that. Because I do think we are really lucky in a way that even the rest of the East End doesn't have to have a really good community, a really good police force, and a very good town in governance. And anything that memorializes that, and probably anything that also points that out to others is beneficial, right? So there's some level of adopting a task force or just having a public statement that I think is helpful for the rest of the New York State community to see and maybe model. So that's it for me. Thank you all for the work you're doing, and love the idea of a task force that could at least look at this and see if there are elements that might be valuable.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else before I move on? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the hazard mitigation plan update.
Oh, it's Chief again.
Because I have copies of.
Yes, Christina handed them out to the town board. They also were posted on the town website yesterday morning as well, when Jen got that recirculated. So we've been working on the hazard mitigation plan. We're going to go through, I'll turn it over to Chief in a minute, going through the different mitigations we've been updating from the 2020 plan. And we need to just give this, a public introduction and put it out there, because we do need to get comments back to Tetra Tech, which is the consulting firm at the county level who is pulling the whole plan together countywide. But I'll turn it over to you because you can explain it much better.
Thank you for having me back in a different capacity. As you know, I'm also the emergency management coordinator for the town. And I'd really like to go backwards to go forward just a little bit to bring the entire board and the public kind of up to speed. So we've had a working group that has met, and we've had over 5 meetings, the group, and on that working group is Councilwoman Liz Hanley, Highway Superintendent Ken Lewis, Building Inspector Reed Karen, Joe Fenard next to me, Town Engineer, our grant writer Jen Messiano, Town Supervisor Amber Brock Williams. So look, as kind of chairing that committee and or chairing that working group, because that's what it was. I appreciate all the input from everybody that's been on that, but really I have to extend special thanks to Jen Boreski in my office, right? Because she's done so much work to help the town kind of get to where we are and into this presentation today, and cover us at our meeting. So hats off to Jen for all the stuff that she's done for us. So like I said, we've had 5 working group meetings. We've also had some additional small group settings where we've met with key stakeholders and discussed parts of the plan, right? We've and just to give you a feel for it, we brought in PSEG to give us a feel for our power supply to the community. We've got the fire department. We've had our IT department in there discussing various exposures to the town, right? Hazards that we may that hazards that may occur and how we can address them in looking at this next 5-year push. So we've also reviewed our 2020 plan, right? So we tried to take a look at them to see what was completed, what was still relevant, which was merged or refined, and which ones we added anew. For public consumption, our current 2020 hazard mitigation plan sits on our website, or our annex to the overall county plan. So that is available to review right now. As a result of these meetings, we've developed 20 proposed mitigation initiatives. And we tried to have them reflect our current conditions. We've gotten department input on them, and we're looking at emerging risks. Okay, so today, as the supervisor mentioned, we're going to focus on these 20 initiatives. The full annex, right? So we're working on a draft full annex of which these 20 will be incorporated into, was provided by Tetra Tech. Now, the reason why we're not putting that out right now is it's really in draft stage. Some of the things within the document haven't been populated by Tetra Tech yet. And some of them have to get state and FEMA review. So we haven't put that out because really our focus today is what hazards do we need to look at in our community and make sure that we're addressing those hazards for the next 5-year look. Going forward, we hope to have a draft annex to Tetra Tech in early April. This will not be the final product, all right? It will still take refinement. After this submission to Tetra Tech, the county will get a chance to kind of look at it. Tetra Tech will look at it. They'll backfill information, and then we'll get a draft annex to review. So today, again, we're going to look at these 20. Each different members of the internal working group are going to give some brief presentations on the 20 topics, and then we'll go forward with any input from the town board on other areas, any input from the public on other areas, but again, it's not final. And then we'll push that back to Tetra Tech for and the county and state for review. So with all that said, did I cover, Liz, Amber, everything?
I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, so going right off the top of the list, we have, and Supervisor, this was posted?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so the public has it. Going right off the top of the list, Joe Fenora is gonna kind of kick us off with the first couple, to say the least, topics.
Sure. So the first risk identified here, and I'll preface by saying that many of these are built upon risks that were either previously identified and have been addressed or underway from the earlier hazard mitigation plan. So the first one here should really be no surprise to folks. Our ferry operations continuity and resilience is of utmost importance to the island. So this row here, this line item reflects an acknowledgement of the importance of the ferry service, but it's also reflective of the work that we've already started with the FEMA funded opportunity to enhance resiliency at both the north and south ferry operations and at both sides of those respective operations. So we're currently working with LK McLean to develop resiliency plans at all 4 ferry terminals to ensure continued operation and resiliency in high water and severe weather events. That's what this line item reflects now. The second one is also built upon a previously identified risk and reflects work that we've already started since the last hazard mitigation plan, and that's a foundational goal to enhance EMS response times and accessibility to elevation challenged neighborhoods on the island. Sometimes, in our case, it's not necessarily the neighborhood that is challenged by a low elevation, it's access to them. Those namely are the Ram Islands and a stretch of West Neck Road. So we're underway in evaluating those areas for potential improvements to infrastructure, be it road elevation adjustments, or attacking it from the opposite side of the spectrum, enhancing our ability to respond to high water events through specialized equipment or vehicles. So that's the second line item there. The third line item is for stormwater improvements. This reflects both a priority of the town to manage our roadways for greater resilience to severe rainfall events, but also the sort of downstream, no pun intended, impacts of improperly managed stormwater runoff with regard to surface water quality and groundwater quality. So we have a number of projects underway to improve drainage on our roadways, simply for the goal of making sure the road doesn't flood. But we also have a number of projects that are at capturing that storm water so that it's not going directly into surface waters and impairing surface water qualities within the island's waterways. The fourth line item is geared towards an emergency drinking water access point. This is somewhat of a new risk that was identified, but the concept is that for the most part, overwhelmingly, folks on the island are dealing with private wells that require electric supplies to their homes. Many have backup generator sources, but in a severe storm event or long-term power outage, there's a significant risk identified that large portions of the island population perhaps don't have access to a potable drinking water supply. So this goal and this risk assessment is geared at establishing a public drinking water supply point on the island to be used for emergency situations. And it would likely utilize our town-owned West Neck water system, and we would be looking at putting in a distribution point so that folks can come and access water, since that infrastructure is set up to be sustained and operated in long-term periods of power outages or access issues to the island from ferry downtime. Moving along to line item number 5, this is a continuation of previous hazard mitigation risk assessment, and it's an acknowledgement that monitoring our groundwater supplies and continuing to work with stakeholders and experts in the field to protect and to develop policy for a sustainable groundwater management program are of utmost importance for the island. This is also reference to the previous risk assessment that we are isolated in our groundwater supply. We're also uniquely challenged in that folks rely for the most part on electricity to access their water supply. So this takes this one step further, and it's intended to be more of a broad risk assessment of our groundwater to include things like water quality and water quality management policies. Line item number 6 is about Shell Beach shoreline stabilization. This was in the previous risk assessment, but it's been updated to reflect the improvements that we've made to the shoreline infrastructure along Shell Beach. It's still here because we acknowledge that that's a dynamic part of the shoreline for the island and an important one. So we're going to continue to seek ways to rehabilitate and enhance that section of the shoreline. Real Point, similar situation as, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Line item number 7 is Crescent Beach. This is a new one, but it's on the same, it's in the same tone as the Shell Beach shoreline stabilization line item. Crescent Beach has been now more publicly discussed about the loss of shoreline, or at least the trending loss of shoreline over time. And so we've now added that as a line item here because of the heavy use of the public and the fact that it's a high value asset for the town and for the community. So its introduction here would allow us to see potential restoration and nourishment project funding in a way that we hadn't really considered in the past. Real Point is a continuation. This project has been seeking a resolution for many years now. That's why it remains on this list. And frankly, there haven't been any real developments in moving towards a solution on this, but we feel it's critically important, and so it remains on the new risk assessment.
Great. One of the things that I neglected to discuss, and just looking at these in broad concept, is some of this is to provide grant opportunity, right? So we have a hazard mitigation plan. We're identifying hazards in certain areas of the community so that when and if FEMA grant opportunity becomes available or other grant opportunities come, we can reflect back on this. We've identified that as a concern for us, and that's why we may be more enabled to get a grant. So with that said, critical infrastructure is something that we're always looking at. We broaden this concept a little bit because besides the critical infrastructure, say at the PD, like a simple example would be storm shutters. If we had a significant hurricane here, the PD is our emergency operations center for the town, and that if we added storm shutters, we would reduce our risk of exposure during a storm from projectiles or other things coming through the building and compromising. But with that said, we reached out to, one of the places we reached out to was the school. Sergeant Rando, working with the school, discussed some of their concerns because that's our primary shelter. If we had a real need to open a shelter in large capacity, we're gonna need the school to be operational. So the school has highlighted to us some areas of concern. So we've added them, again, looking at grant opportunities going forward in our sheltering operation, so that if we have to, we can use the school as a shelter and provide a resource to them, or both ways. Either they can get a grant to support a roof failure, and you still use it as a shelter. So it's a great asset for us as a community, but that's one of the areas that we added critical facilities. Also including the town building, town government needs to stay in operation during storms, so looking at this. If I take us back, probably 3 cycles ago, we have generators in most of our buildings now. That's largely because we identified them and has a mitigation plan, and then we moved to remediate that going forward. So that's where we're headed. And the school recently added a new generator there, so that's really helpful to us. Supervisor.
Bridge Street. So that is, we've kept that in. It's the same as 2020-008 last time. Bridge Street is prone to flooding, and elevating the buildings and businesses and roadways is a huge task. But at some point, we may need to look at that more carefully, depending on how global warming and things go. But having it in here, we at least can avail ourselves of planning grant possibilities, as well as monies to do something about it. But it's a harder one for us to fix, but we want to make sure we keep it in here. Elevate Westmoreland Drive, I think that was Ken.
Joe.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah, this is very much related to some of those EMS access discussions we had earlier, but this is one that we've already identified a resolution for. It's a project that we're trying to execute with a specific solution, so that's why it's a standalone project here. But the issue is that the Westmoreland community is isolated by essentially a single access point, and it happens to be flood prone and low-lying elevation, so we're looking to resolve that. And there is a little bit of strategy, as the chief mentioned here, to what makes this list or how it's presented. There is both the analysis part where you're trying to put projects in or issues in concept, and then there are some that you're there because you want to be able to execute them. You've already acknowledged that they're a risk, and so this is one of those that we're ready to hopefully check the box, so to speak. And show that we're working towards resolving and progressing on these projects. And to the chief's point earlier, we've had a pretty successful run with knocking off projects on this list. It's very much a guiding document, and we've even received funding. The ferry project is one of those shining examples. Almost $200,000 in federal funding was awarded to us to study that problem, to help us resolve it. And the town was uniquely positioned as a government entity eligible for those funds, but effectively they're all flowing to the community through those private companies. So the ferry is providing us that service, we're providing them access to the funding, and in return, hopefully they will make these improvements and provide us with enhanced service. So it's a great example of how this process can really work to benefit all of the stakeholders.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I was hoping that this project would have been done already. It was in our last plan, and the current highway superintendent is virtually guaranteeing me that this won't be on the list the next time. So I appreciate that confidence that he has. Going on to the next one is cybersecurity. Look, we're all
You're on
know, increasingly aware of cybersecurity concerns, especially with what's going on in Suffolk County and in our neighborhood Southold. So we brought Kevin Lukmansky in, the head of our IT department. We had a very good discussion with him. We've identified some areas where we can reduce our cybersecurity risks in looking at the next 5 years going forward. So I think it's critical for us to have that in this plan, and that's reflected in this book. Okay, Liz, do you wanna?
This is, yeah. So maintenance and recruitment of volunteer services, EMS and fire. And so just more broadly, you know, we've seen a decline in enrollment, not as much with EMS, but within the fire department. And especially because we are isolated on an island, it's important that we be able to respond. We obviously participate in mutual aid with other neighboring communities, but especially with the fire department, we are getting to a point where it could become an issue in the near future. You know, we're kind of dealing with difficult to recruit younger members due to housing issues, just the increased cost of living and other economic factors. And so we're looking in this kind of item, this is new, just to help with recruitment and retention and operational support, just so that we can retain that response capability that as an isolated place is so very important.
To give a little more feedback on that, Liz, I am getting some pushback from Tetra Tech and the state on that, right? One of the things that they're talking to us about is not identifying a hazard of concern. So, we're putting this out there to you. We all feel what Liz has described in our community, but we may have to refine this a little bit more. And we knew going in, Liz,
Yeah.
we talked about it. This really should be on a global county plan. Suffolk County should have this as part of recruitment and retention of EMS and fire personnel is huge across the east end and entire Suffolk County. So we may have to do a little bit more work. So I just wanted to put that out there for everybody to understand. We'll see how it's advised, but we may have to identify a hazard like wildfires, which will come up, and say, look, it's directly impacted by this, our ability to respond and handle the situation.
Yeah, and we can refine this as needed with specific, and also we can partner with the fire department to kind of talk about in what situations would a decreased response capability really,
Have a negative impact on the island.
Exactly.
I'm really happy that we're including risk assessments as holistic as this, because I think when we look at the rest of Suffolk County, our community is somewhat unique, where isolation is very much impacted by these social changes in demographics that impact our ability to respond to emergencies are very much relevant. And perhaps this is an opportunity to present Shelter Island on the forward-facing part of that type of risk assessment, whereas I think previous generations of this have looked at these risk assessments very more linearly. And so I'm really happy that we're presenting this and pushing this. I think there are potential very positive outcomes for our community, because there are other layers of these complications that aren't really addressed in this yet, but also will have impact.
Supervisor?
The next one is me, Enhanced Town Code. In our current draft, we were addressing all hazards, and as we started to look at it for this year, we realized that that was too broad. Some of them just didn't lend themselves to interacting with the town code. So we are definitely focused on the town code sections that would need to be looked at would be Chapter 68, flood damage prevention, Chapter 47, burning, Chapter 129, wetlands, and 133, zoning. So we've focused this a bit more to cover those. We are also including looking at the Uniform Building Code for flood hazards, so that if we're doing anything with our code enhancement, we also take into account building code and where it needs to be integrated, fine, or enhanced a little bit. Building code always applies anyways. And then we also just kind of, we are supporting education out there. And actually, it looks like that might have gotten dropped in this. We'll have to put that back in. So we wanted to keep that from the last plan, is increasing public awareness on current code efforts. Yeah, that was it on that one.
Wildfire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got the fire department ones. So, as you know, we have large tracts of preserved land, most notably Mashomick. And so we are in a space where we're having some increased risks of wildfire. And so looking at putting together a wildfire protection plan, again, together with some kind of stewardship opportunities. The fire department actually had some specific recommendations, especially in Mashomick, for consideration of fire lanes and a cistern. So they kind of identified a point for a cistern, just to be able to better respond to fire department, to any kind of like wildfire situation. Yeah.
And that would be in the area of Mashomick that has residential, right, on Compost Harbor, was that Foxy Creek Road or something?
One of the things just to highlight again is that we had the Fire Commissioner Anthony Ryder come into our working group and give us some overview thoughts. We've had other conversations in the past with Brian Gallagher, who's the state forest ranger, who has given us really good insight into different types of wildfire. So we feel like we're in a pretty good place, but we still need to take a look at some concern there. And that's why that's stated in the main plan. Deer and tick management projects, we've left this in. As you know, we have a deer and tick committee that meets semi-regularly. They're always looking at different ways to reduce tick populations. We felt that this should stay in because of opportunities for grants. Some of this is connected to four-poster back in the day and deer reduction programs, so that item we felt should stay in to keep going forward.
Quick question on this one. To me, it feels like it should be a red section, in the red section, not the yellow section. It doesn't come from a catastrophe, but it has incredible health impact on our residents and debilitating health impacts. So it just feels that it needs to be moved up to the next category.
Yeah, you want to have it as a higher priority?
Yes.
Right. I guess some of the reasoning for leaving it where it was that it's been an ongoing issue, and I feel like we're at a little bit of a stalemate right now in our real ability to address this concern with with the loss of four-poster that was having some consequence, and the reduction in our ability to cull a herd, right? Even though we're working on it, but let us take a look at it, and I think there's some merit to what you're saying.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm on the deer and tick committee.
Yeah, no.
And it is such a difficult problem. But maybe getting a higher priority, you get some more money, and get a little more aggressive. But yeah, okay, thank you.
It is a problem we're trying to tackle. It is a funded tax-based thing that we actively work on in reducing deer population. So it's important to the community. So I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is extreme climate centers. We progressed really from having shelters for severe storms to really having heating and cooling of late, right? So where we have extreme temperatures, and whether it be hot or cold, and this winter we all felt the cold. So we largely, for the public, use our senior center, right? And the staff down there during business operations. And then we ask people to call the PD during off hours, and if we needed to, we would open that up with support staff. But if we needed to expand that to another location, i.e. the community center, that has a small generator on it. If there was a loss of power, we're not able to cool that building, to have it as a cooling center. So this would provide us opportunities for grant funding to expand our ability in those two areas. Again, I would highlight, being a small place, we try not to open up our shelters unless we really have to. We're really conscious of that. We can make other arrangements that are far more cost effective. But in a large scale event, we may have to, so we have to have the ability to do that.
And that's something even during the winter storms that we had, I was getting calls from Newsday and TV station to, like, where are our, warming centers in case we need one? And our response was we would open up the senior center if need be, and our senior center is very much in touch with everybody to, reach out and make sure they're okay, and also call PD if need be, so.
Number 18 is about surface water quality. And this is an acknowledgement that a large part of our economy is based on water quality that supports tourism and also both fishing and shell fishing. But this is a risk assessment that is not geared towards a specific solution, but an acknowledgement of the importance of the issue and an acknowledgement that a multifaceted approach in maintaining and improving surface water quality is particularly relevant to the town.
And again, to tie it back to the county, it's really something that the region should be looking at least the 5 East End towns and the villages that are in the waterfront, because it could be a regional problem that impacts all of us. Technology. So this is one that I had added in looking at all of our operational plans and comprehensive emergency management. We don't have anything that with regard to radiological events. And look, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but Millstone isn't that far away. We're just outside the federal requirement for response, but if the winds were blowing in a different direction on a given day and there was an event, we're gonna have people asking us, okay, what do we do? So why I wanted to add this, and again, trying to get the county to look at it from a regional perspective, is that the East End could largely be dealing with this. Let's develop some guidance documents, let's develop a plan so that if there were an event, that we're better suited or better planned for it. So that is why I thought that this was important to add to the plan.
Yeah, pandemic response. When the current plan was first adopted, it was in August of 2020. So it was getting finished up, smack in the middle of the serious part of what was going on in the community. We, at that point in time, it was listed, and as you can see, like, we're working on the plan, and we've been working on it for a few months now. They had been working on it, and I can't remember if they included it last time. I think Councilman Bebon, and I'm not sure who the second board member was at the time. But anyway, so it did get included, and we have moved it from medium priority to low priority because we did very well with that. We have existing policies and procedures in place that we were able to pull together during that time period to respond, and did so successfully, I think. We were always the community with the lowest rate of incidence. So it's still in here, and we have, we can always, identify opportunities and what needs to change if we should be faced with something similar again. But so it's still a hazard to be considered, but the priority we have moved down.
So again, in kind of closing here, what I've asked the town board to do is if there's other areas, if you have something now that you wanted to suggest, or going forward as you get a chance to digest this a little bit more, we'd ask that you give the feedback back to myself or somebody in this group, and we could consider adopting it into the plan. I feel like we've done a pretty good job at looking at vulnerabilities in the community and trying to look at ways that we could possibly address those. Our working group, internal working group meets again on Thursday. And we're set to meet every other week for the next, I put out 5 cycles, just to see where we go. But largely, we're waiting for some feedback from Tetra Tech. There was a community survey that was posted publicly. We had stakeholder surveys that we put out to our stakeholders in the community. So once all that data gets back to us and we see what some other concerns are, we may add and or remove things from this plan. But we'll be getting back with the town board and the community as we go forward. But I feel like we're in a pretty good, decent place as a municipality and looking at our concerns and trying to address those concerns in the next 5-year block.
Thank you. Any other comments from the town board of this?
No, I think you hit all the important key points. So,
A lot of good work. Thank you.
Do we have anyone in the community who wants to weigh in? Concerns they think we missed, priorities that should be changed?
Just before the community goes, Supervisor, I don't know if Pam's still on there.
No.
Unfortunate, but Pam, I'm sure you'll watch later on. Pam did share with us some concerns, and she had a friend that is well versed in groundwater. So we took probably 100-page document. We took a look at that, town engineer, and you'll see pieces of that addressed in, I think, 5 and 6 in the plan. So we do appreciate the community feedback, and we appreciate what Pam had sent us to review.
I had just looked to see if she was still on too, because I knew she had chimed in before. Anyone else? John, come on up.
John Cronin, former town engineer. My involvement with the hazard mitigation plan goes back to probably close to 14 years ago. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I think there's been an extraordinary evolution in looking at many things that are at risk on the island since my participation. And obviously, since the chief chairs that effort, I think his awareness, coupled with the awareness of all the public officials elected and appointed since then, it demonstrates that you guys, including the chief, are really on the ball of looking at these things. The one item which I'm not sure is perhaps in the process of being addressed, but that I would certainly ask that you take a more careful look at, involves terrorism. And I lump under terrorism things that might include active shooters and those kinds of things, and they may very well be part of the police department effort. But the place that I've always had the biggest concern about concerning terrorism, and this goes back to the 9/11 event years ago, does include the ferries. And during my 18-year association as a ferry captain, in my view, there were many things that were deficient, and I don't blame the ferry companies for this. We simply didn't think of these things back then. But there were some deficiencies regarding security of the ferries. And since the ferries themselves are one of the key components of trying to mitigate hazards, the security of those vessels is something that I think deserves some looking at, and perhaps that's already in process. But I think the risk of terrorism embodied in the ferry vulnerability, embodied in the fact that this is one of the wealthiest communities in America. And if you wanted to do some damage to people that represent that wealth, this is the place to do that. Because we have a lot of members of our population who are very wealthy individuals, and conveniently hitting those people from a terrorism standpoint represents a statement. May not necessarily represent severe impact, but it does represent a statement. So I think you guys have all done a great job over the last 10 to 14 years in really boosting a careful look at risks. But I would ask that you include terrorism as part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question. So
I know specifically it doesn't address this, but if we were to have a major storm event that caused severe erosion, damage to bulkheads, like wiped out a shore of the island, that would probably end up being like a state-issued disaster declaration that would open up funding. But is something like erosion control something we should include in this, or is it not really hazardy enough? I don't know if that's the right term, but is it not definable enough? I know we have specific beaches isolated, but.
We've taken that approach through the lens of erosion control for critical town infrastructure.
Okay.
The risk of erosion is widespread across the island with regard to private property, and that's not something that we intended to tackle in this approach. So the line items that you see here are isolated to infrastructure. And we reviewed, the highway superintendent and I, our marine asset list, and incorporated that for consideration here as to where our vulnerabilities might be in terms of improvement. So it was considered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the hazard mitigation internal working group will continue on with this and keep you posted. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is considering raising beach sticker fees.
So I brought this up, and this is just some context. I was spending some time with the February financials and just kind of thinking about how our storm response, I went back and forth, you guys might have seen them, just thinking about how our staffing and some of our costs we will go over budget for highway. And so thinking about, I don't think we don't have an exact number yet. I was talking to Ken and thinking about what payrolls need to be backed out. But so basically taking a look and just being like, okay, well, where can we make this up? And so one of the items I've been doing a review was considering looking at the pricing of the beach stickers. Currently, we are half the price of neighboring communities. So East Hampton, Southampton do $50 a day. We charge $25 a day. And again, these are for non-residents. And let's see, like East Hampton is $250 to $300 monthly. We are $95 to $125 monthly. We charge $230 to $250 a season. And Southampton does $500 a season. East Hampton does $750 for the season. Just based on some quick math, if we were to bring these more in line with neighboring communities, it would add about $100K in revenue for 2025 and beyond, which would more than cover the shortfall, plus give us some extra wiggle room. And also we know it's going to be another super tough budget season. So putting it out there for consideration.
What does Southwold charge for their beach stickers?
Southwold is, yeah, I did that. I looked for that because that's a similar neighboring
It's a
community.
more
Yes.
appropriate
So
example of a beach.
they charge the residents $30 for a 2-year beach sticker per vehicle.
We don't charge.
So we don't charge it all.
residents at all. Yeah, the models were different, so that's why I didn't include them.
Yeah. And then renters, they don't, they have like something for guests, but they have to be a guest that the homeowner puts out to say, I want my guests, and it's $40 a year. Renters pay $300 a year. Hotels and B&Bs, it's $200 a year per, I think, room, so that over the course of the year, that hotel can give their visitor for whatever weekend a pass, and then it goes to the next person the next week. Mattatuck has its own park district, so residents who want to go to Mattatuck beaches, it's $25 for residents, and non-residents, their fees are $35 a day and $200 a season. For Orient and Cutchogue, I think, were their other park districts. I did not find anything that allowed non-residents to go to their specific beaches. So if you look at the season for Southold Mattituck, it's either $300 for renters or $200 for the season.
And what do we charge for the season?
$250.
$250, but they also have the additional revenue source of charging residents, is that correct?
Yes, yes. Yeah, $15.
So that's kind of,
Would not recommend that.
and that's not what I'm proposing at all.
I feel like,
And that's like, I guess why I like put together Southold, Southampton and East Hampton, just because their structures with how they charge are more similar to ours.
What is the differentiation in price? 230 to 250 for the season, what does that represent?
it's just $250.
Is this 250?
Yeah, when I saw the range, 50 to 70, it's like our fee structure is 70, 125, and 250.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I wondered if maybe that was like before our last increase.
Yeah,
That's,
I mean, it may make sense. Do we have a category for hotel rooms? I mean, that seems to make some sense.
no, they do day passes.
yeah, we do,
So-
that's usually how we're managing it.
Yeah, so right now, like ours is higher than a hotel or B&B in Southold, because they do 200 for the entire season. If you've got 13 weeks and they're giving out day passes to $25 a day, then
Yeah, that's
we've
good.
exceeded that.
The Southold example is a good one. They're $50 more than we are. So there's a little wiggle room there. Comparing it to Southampton or East Hampton, I love our beaches, walk on them every day. But I also took my dog for a walk in Montauk last week. Yeah, completely different experience. I'm not sure that's a good apples to apples comparison, but there's a little wiggle.
So the other thing is, for our day passes, we use Park Mobile, and I had already kind of had this conversation with Bo, like how it gets set up. And he told me like it can be any sort of configuration you want. So if you wanted to maybe charge like more on the weekends, that could be something that we could do. I know Crescent Beach, I always thought that Crescent Beach was open for day passes on the weekend, but it's not. So
So we had.
there's different ways that you can have it set up.
And just a note that we last updated pricing in 2021.
Just keep in mind, if we issue a pass, we have to guarantee a spot. It's why we dropped Crescent Beach. Because initially we had it on there, but it just didn't work because people get down there, they paid for a pass and they park there. And they would go park at Wade's, but it wasn't in the grid, so we would grab a ticket.
Right.
So we can't, so on the weekends, there's no way we can guarantee a spot in July and August at Crescent Beach, so.
Makes sense.
The other, Bo is very good and familiar with our Park Mobile. I mean, I think it's an excellent revenue generator for that. I think we did like $60,000 last year in going to a remote application. So that is an easy one to adjust in price to support that. And so it's probably a place you could do it. I think we allow 30 at Wade's Beach daily. 25, okay. And then the others are much smaller. So Wade's Beach is really the hub for the daily passes. And that is on the weekends. So.
Yeah.
Chief, does Park Mobile solve the spot problem? Because you would park first and then.
You don't have designated Park Mobile spots.
Oh, you have to have a designated spot.
Right.
General.
Yep. So Crescent Beach, because of the way it's set up, look, we want our residents to go there first. That beach, the good, right? It's a prime beach. So there's available spots at Wade's Beach. Crescent Beach is,
It's always busy.
onto itself.
People can use Park Mobile in advance to get a spot.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to wait until you're there. You could get it
They
in
know
the
they're coming
morning.
August 1st. They book it in May.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Do we get a statement like everything is itemized? Where the parking, where this money, is it broken down into categories? So you know how many people parked at Highbury Lane
Yes.
over the course of the season or,
Yes.
okay, bootleggers, okay,
We can give you all that data.
okay.
Again, Wade's Beach, because of the scope of it, is our primary spot.
Makes sense.
Those are either one or two. you know, Highbury Lane, a couple of spots, you know, Bootleggers, a couple of spots. Crescent Beach during the week, I think we had 10, yeah.
And there were 3 at Band-Aid?
And Hayden Lane, I don't know, what is it, 4? Yeah. If that was to support that, I would say that would be a simple area to address. The daily passes, the rest is. Just because we're, you know, immersed in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just keep in mind that if you get the price too high, then we have to make the tickets higher.
Yeah.
Right, because if it's $100 for a thing and you're gonna make it close to that, you say, I'm gonna just get the ticket, and we don't get all the revenue from the ticket.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Since the last time we did a price increase was 2021, inflation, if we're looking at our daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal, we should at a minimum be at $31 for a day pass, $87 for weekly, $155 for monthly, and $310 for a season. So I think that should be our bottom line. Yeah.
Sounds fun to me.
I mean, I'm also looking at not just adjusting for inflation, but trying to cover some of the shortfall from the winter storms, things that that wasn't included in the budget. That's at least what and if you had a little bit extra, maybe if this board doesn't feel comfortable going to 50, I would push past 31.
Yeah, I was gonna say 40.
30, I would think at least 35 or 40. I don't think that that's too high, and we could definitely use the extra revenue, and it would help us for next budget season.
Yeah, I would say 35 for a day pass. 90 for a weekly.
I was even gonna say.
I would say 40.
Yeah, I was gonna say 40.
Yeah.
I'm not that high.
Okay, 30.
Are we under the gun? Are we talking about doing it now?
Well, we would need to do it for the season, which is why it's on here.
I want to be able to like start getting information out there.
No, I know. Are we kind of under the gun right now to do this? We're going to cram this in right now?
We could pass a resolution on Monday, and then Shelby could have everything updated before the season
I
starts.
think that's too quick. I don't know what kind of spring in this.
It's 25 then, right? So we're.
It's
right,
25.
25 right now.
We're bumping 10 if we go to 35.
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of doing it now if we're going to just pass a resolution and boom, we're going to get spring.
I'm at 35. I'm fine with that. And yearly, yeah. But yearly is the season. I mean, no one's here and
Right.
buys one of these this year,
Yeah, if we could-
November.
Yeah, I mean, if someone, it's gonna rent for the whole summer.
And are the police even patrolling? Are you handing out tickets in November?
We don't start till May.
Yeah,
So it's really just the season, summer.
yeah, but we also need time to get it in place, because we have to talk to
Right.
Park Mobile to get things changed. Shelby
We've already
has.
had several people too, like buying their weekly passes, buying their monthly passes. Yeah, we've kind of already lost the extra revenue for things that we've already sold, so.
95 is monthly?
Monthly is 125. Yeah, it's the higher end of it. One piece of paper they have, or should have gotten an email, I think.
300 for the season?
250.
50? Well, we can do better than that.
Well, as far as rates, so what I'm hearing is 35 then for the day passes. I'd say 90, just 87 is a weird number, so 90 for
yeah.
weekly. Monthly, 155, take it to 175.
Yeah, for
Monthly's
highest,
125.
yeah, take it
And
to 170.
170. And for the season, take it to 325.
Yeah.
Give us something to kind of close the,
At least keep up with, inflation.
keep up with the inflation and
And Shelby, remind me, what do you need? If I walk into your office and say, I need a weekly parking pass, what do I have to show you?
Nothing.
A check for $90?
Yes.
Your
There's different things
license.
for residents, different things you have to show.
But I don't have to show you a lease or anything like that.
I don't believe so.
It's a board discussion. I'll get to public when we get done with the board piece. you do need a license plate. Because that goes on the sticker.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
For daily, weekly, monthly, and
Right,
seasonal.
we have different stickers for the season. Like the resident stickers are good for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then we have seasonal stickers.
Well, those are the round ones.
Mhm.
The resident ones are the triangle.
Right. So we're talking about pricing for round stickers.
This is
Not trying.
Yeah,
This is for non.
Triangle stickers are, residents
Non-residents.
will be not.
Just to make it clear for everybody.
Yeah.
A triangle sticker, we're not talking about charging you.
Yeah, still no charges for you. That's the
Want a
thing
round sticker.
yeah, that's the one thing on the North Fork where I was just like, oh. Yeah.
But
Okay.
Albert, you think we're rushing this?
Yeah, I think it's obnoxious, right before the season now to cram this in. A substantial increase, that's all, I think it's obnoxious.
I feel like we're keeping up with inflation and.
Okay, I mean,
Mhm.
we look at
It's
it
also
differently.
like- Yeah, I mean, how many beach stickers have you issued so far?
Like the ones people pay for.
Mhm.
I think there's been like 2 or 3 weeklies and a monthly.
So people aren't thinking about it yet, so they'll be checking in when they get here.
And those people got a deal.
Yeah.
They have a discount. Track them down. You owe me $5.
I feel like we do need to give the town clerk's office time to
Yeah.
get the information out there.
So this
And
begs,
there could be a run on beach stickers between now and 6 PM.
begs the
We're closed
question.
Friday.
Yeah.
I can't see my car from here. Is that sticker on my car dead now? I have to get a new one?
No.
When did you get it, last year?
3 years ago.
Then it's back.
Okay.
Red or
No, it's
Green?
over there.
We can check on you later.
Yeah, I'll check later what I can do.
Yes. Yeah. Any more questions or comments from the table before I open it up to the public? No. Got one wait or move it ahead. Okay, Jan, you had your hand up first?
Yeah. So I understand that this is basically discussion on the non-resident stickers, right?
Correct.
Correct.
From outside of the government. So what about the season passes, season resident stickers?
Don't
Because.
charge
They're
for,
free.
there's a free.
I'm sorry?
They're free.
No, I understand that, I have
Yeah.
one on my car, okay, but I believe the requirement for those stickers is to present driver license with Shelter Island address,
registration.
registration with Shelter Island address, okay? So what about the people, like summer people, let's call it this way, who have cars registered elsewhere but have houses here and paying taxes and so forth? Now they're gonna be affected by this increase, correct?
No, if they're a property owner, they get the resident sticker.
Oh, so.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can do it with a tax bill.
Yeah.
So what about their
The
immediate?
issue that sometimes comes up, I think, from what I've heard, is if it's like a non-primary residence homeowner here, and then they have children that come, and they don't, have the Shelter Island address on their registration, then they have to pay.
So I would suggest that if you're gonna be raising fees, that you think about this too. And for example, like my kids, they have cars registered elsewhere, so they have to pay, so you're just increasing their fee now. So that's one, so, the perhaps solution is found that like immediate family members of the taxpayer on the island or resident on the island are exempted from this, okay? And second thing, I actually don't particularly like that, if we're gonna be raising revenues to cover shortfalls in the budget and so forth, then everybody should contribute and residents should also be charged something. Even though I have a free sticker, I don't mind paying something, maybe not the full rate, but everybody should have a stake in the system and everybody should contribute, okay?
Gets the argument.
It's not a popular idea, I can see, but that's a fair idea. Everybody should have a stake in the system and pay something. If you start serving people, you know, so if you're charging them, you know,
$5?
not, whatever, I mean, if you're charging for a monthly annual permit, 250, why don't you charge residents something? So everybody pays.
Thank you. Getting back to the Southold one, they do have guests, $40 a year. We don't have that kind of a category. I mean, when my daughters come, they take my car. So that's my workaround so that they don't have to pay.
Take one of my other cars and leave my car in my driveway.
But, I mean, Southold does have it, and if you look at their form online, I think that does cover like adult children of homeowners. Like they're attesting that this person is a related family member. So we could do something like that, and maybe, like, we should look at what the cost of the sticker is. I did that last year during budget season. I can look that up later, but
$2-3.
yeah, I think it's less than $5 and it's over 5 years. So, but we could do like a nominal fee for a guest, like create a new category, guest beach stickers. To kind of
Yeah.
just tossing that out there.
How does the clerk's office validate guests?
Yeah,
There is
that's kind of like the
there is
whole-
a form that the homeowner fills out and has an affidavit.
Because there is trickle down to us, people ask, we send them all to Shelby.
Right, yes. Yeah, I didn't keep the form open, but it's,
I mean, I almost wonder if, I mean, we can consider something, I mean, we've never had anything for guests, and so I wonder if rolling something out with this iterate, like, I wonder if that's something to consider when we put out the next sticker.
yeah. And I mean, their guest one is good for a year.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. How long is it for?
Yeah, I did make that note. So that could be something that kind of, like, I would think for your office, that's like the hardest thing. Is probably dealing with those situations. I know.
Verify.
Yeah.
It's the same sticker. you just
Yeah,
have to
I remember
verify
Dottie,
purchase.
Children of the homeowners.
Yeah.
like,
I was like, yeah, before,
yeah,
we were
like,
back, I always had to take my mom's car, that was just how it was.
yeah, when my daughter, moved back from Ohio, she still had her Ohio driver's license. I'm like, do I need to create a sublease for her so that she could get a beach sticker?
I just made my daughter register a car here.
She was in transition.
Okay, but that sounds like a larger code change
Yeah,
than just
I know,
adjusting
I'm just
pricing.
tossing it
So I feel
out
like
there.
There
Yeah.
are two different issues. Either we change the pricing so that Shelby can get rolling on it and then adjust the code. It's a long process, adjust the
Yeah.
code to create a new category, which would then, roll out.
I mean, maybe you consider that with like some kind of, if you want to do some kind of like nominal fee to cover the administration and the sticker or something like that, that could be part of the same consideration.
I'm okay with the pricing we just
Yeah,
talked
I was
about.
gonna say, let's just do
I think-
pricing for
Want to
now.
do
and
that
then-
piece? And
That's a,
Yeah,
yeah,
charging residents is a completely different matter.
yeah.
That, it's not a bad point, it's just that it's gonna take some discussion.
mhm.
Someone else can champion that one. It's not for me.
I mean, we just raised taxes and the library and this and that.
Mhm, yeah. And residents should get something for,
Being residents, well, they're gonna get $25 off their parking ticket if you charge $10. But, oh, no, I mean, that
Yeah, I
only day
think it
rate.
goes from free to paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Season $325, what are you gonna charge them? $25, sounds like too much.
Yeah. Yeah, Southold is $30 for a 2-year sticker
Yeah.
per vehicle. So it would be 60 for. husband and wife. Yeah, so it'd be 60 for husband and wife to each get stickers. In Southold.
Think about all the money you're gonna raise then.
Yeah. Full cars.
So it sounds like for the moment, we're just going with 35, 90, 170, 325.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
325 is the season.
It's the season pass. Okay, next up on the agenda is Facilities Master Plan Overview. We have Joe in for that. At our last town board meeting, we authorized me to sign the contract with the consulting engineering firm that we picked to do the Facilities Master Plan. And so, Joe, if you would just give us a little bit of an overview about the firm and what the scope of the project is.
Yes, I'll start for the public's benefit, just a little bit of how we got here. So the town board authorized some funds for facility master plan project. The scope of the project was to, or is to, evaluate our town buildings from a number of different perspectives. First, the functionality and the usability of the buildings. Second, the condition of the buildings and how it relates to our functionality. And third is to analyze all of that information and provide us with a solution for how to best fit our services, our employees, and to project to the best of their ability our future needs for those services and employees. So we developed this proposal. We worked together to develop the scope. Proposal went out for bid. We received 4 comprehensive bids from qualified firms. We shortlisted 1, we interviewed them, and most recently, the board has just executed a resolution to sign a contract with the winning firm, which is BVS. BVS has a history of doing work with local municipalities, namely East Hampton. They did work with the Shelter Island School District, and their proposal was very well suited for our needs and for our community. And so I've notified them that they have won the project, and they're currently drafting a contract for us to execute with them. So that work potentially could start in as little as a couple of weeks. And the first few steps will be document sharing and getting the firm up to speed on existing studies, analysis, but then they'll start pretty quickly on public engagement. They're going to engage directly with town employees and officials, and then there'll be opportunities for the public to interact also, helping to form a better idea of our needs and our conflicts, our constraints. So there'll be lots of opportunity for public engagement, and I think this project is it's great to kick off. It's long overdue. I think it will deliver a really high value product for the board to develop subsequent policy, and also for the community to have some understanding of our constraints and also some buy-in on what our facilities can look like in the future.
I'm really excited for this to get started.
Yes, yeah, this is
That'd be awesome.
something I started to think about, like maybe my second or third year into office, that the town needed a facilities master plan, and supervisors at the time were the first over my dead body, very reluctant. And it took time to point out periodically, like, oh, this is where a facilities master plan would be helpful. And so we finally are getting this to a place where it's going to happen. We got the board to put in funding a couple of years ago, and now we're moving forward. So I'm very excited. It's very much needed, and it's good for us to have planning documents.
So I have some questions. I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say, go ahead.
Do we have building plans?
We have some building plans, but for the most
They're not gonna do building plans or measurements.
they're going to do facility assessments. So they'll walk through each facility. They'll identify deficiencies, code-related deficiencies, space-related deficiencies, functionality-related deficiencies, things like, I'm being facetious, but that we have one employee who works in front of a fireplace. Those kinds of things will be identified in the sense that you have like a square footage deficiency for how many people are working in the building. But we're not contracting with them to develop existing condition plans or as-built plans of all the buildings. So that didn't seem like an appropriate use of funds for the stage that we're at.
This analysis, oh, sorry.
Do we have surveys?
We do.
We have all surveys for the property that.
Yes,
gonna be-
some are outdated, they would warrant updating, but for the most part, we have surveys of all of our major facilities and properties.
Looking back at the listing of the positions that they're billing for, and there are specific hours that are billed, there's no structural engineer included in their proposal. I was just curious if we start opening up walls like here, if we're gonna put a second floor addition on. We don't really have a structural engineer included in there. I just wanted, that poses limitations in terms of, there is restrictions with that.
Sure.
And then the subsequent question is, they itemized hours and the numbers that they're going to bill us for. Anything over that, do we have to approve? Or they'll just, yeah, okay, we have. And last thing is the public hearing. I see that they're not gonna handle any public hearings in their proposal.
Let's take it from the top with the first question about the structural engineer. So the firm has a wide range of skilled engineers. What you see in the proposal is largely how they develop the cost pricing. So those slots aren't necessarily for a specific person, it's for a specific tier of person within the organization. So there's hours accounted for at lower level administrative positions, mid-level engineers, drafters, senior positions. So that discipline specific allocation that you're referring to isn't really applicable on the proposal level, but it was important for us when we were selecting a firm to make sure we found a firm that had the depth and breadth of professional expertise to answer those questions. So specifically in the proposal, I'm not concerned about the lack of a call out for a structural engineer because we know that this firm, through our due diligence, has ample structural engineers to supplement those hours. And it's the firm's responsibility to work within their hour allocation. So they may be able to swap a structural engineer's hours for an electrical engineer's hours that are in the proposal. So I'm not concerned about that particular issue. Your second question about the financial structure, those hours are developed on a not to exceed budget number, so they will bill us accordingly as the project progresses based on the number of hours that they have exhausted, and the number that we have agreed to is the final price, and they have an obligation to deliver the scope that we've agreed to. So they may go over on hours expended, but they have an obligation to meet our scope requirements at that price. If we change the scope, then they would have to notify us of that and the appropriate change that they project. So we would be on the hook if we change the scope for additional funds, but they would have to let us know about that.
Okay, so there's communication over that, all right.
Yep, and then your third question was?
Public hearing, they excluded public hearing, any involvement with public hearing, which I think is frankly important.
Of course, yeah, and I think that's a nomenclature issue, which is something that we discussed with them in their shortlist interview, was the need for public interaction. So I think that's perhaps something that was just misconstrued in terms of a formal public hearing, but they have agreed and their scope includes multiple iterations of work session type status updates and things of that nature. So I'm not particularly concerned about the number of meetings. I think there's actually 3 or 4 proposed.
But I was thinking in terms of questions from the public.
I think that would happen traditionally in an environment like here at a work session rather than an advertised public hearing, which perhaps is an oversight in how we refer to it, because public hearing is like a specific type of event with an obligation for notice, and we have typically done these in work sessions where we would post a draft report on the website, and then it would be on a work session agenda, and that's, I think, the structure that I have embedded in the proposal.
Okay, all right.
We also haven't signed the contract with them yet or engagement letter with them, so we can make sure on the, interaction with public that we heard how we have, work session, public presentations. When they're in the process of drafting that contractor engagement letter. So it'll come, we'll all take a look at it, as well as Thomas, and definitely Joe.
Okay. All right.
And we already had discussed a potential scope modification to include the School Street property, which wasn't a contender for this project when we issued the RFP. So we haven't signed a contract, to the supervisor's point, and that's an opportunity, if you'd like to include more interaction with the public. Now's our chance to do
Okay, I think we should.
Yeah.
One other minor question, is the Legion Hall included in the scope?
Yes.
It is, okay, not just the community center, the second floor, but the Legion.
It's referred to as the community center as a structure and as a parcel, yes.
Good.
Because we own the building, but we lease it on the downstairs
Yes.
back to them, so it is still our structure.
And just to be clear on the scope, they're gonna look at what we have, but they'll be planning for what we need going forward.
That's exactly right. The emphasis is on what we need, not on what we have. We, for the most part, we know what we have, but it's important that we go through the process to review what we have, identify what the constraints are, so that we develop an appropriate solution.
And in the scope, does it specific, I don't remember it specifically to say, I mean, none of the board members have workspace except the supervisor. We can certainly share a little workspace, but other than this room when it's empty. So maybe that should be tossed in there somewhere.
I totally agree. And those are the types of constraints and needs that you'll have the opportunity to share directly with them when they start the project. One of the first steps, I think the second one precisely, is for interviews on a department level basis with the consultant to establish rapport, to understand what that department's constraints are, and to express desires for, for specific needs. And the town board as an entity is looked at as one of those department level interactions.
Thank you.
And they would be comparing that to other, one of the major benefits to using a firm like this is that there aren't necessarily codes for, or building codes for the problem that you just described, but firms like this have substantial experience with other municipalities where they're able to relate that problem that you just described and justify it with past experiences for the need for space, for privacy, for workspace for town board members, and also rely on best practices, because a lot of these needs are largely based off best practice. And so we'll have the opportunity to express those.
Any other questions from the table? Any questions from the public? Come on forward.
Since I'm here in the town board, I'm going to solve the questions. I mean, the way the process is going to be working, that the consultants are going to be going to all the department heads, town board members, and so forth. How do you stop that from becoming a wish list? Everybody wants something. We already heard this. There's like the 4 town board members would like to have offices. Okay, I mean, I've heard about fit center. I heard about senior center. I heard about Olympic sized swimming pool. Expanded recreation. So, is there any budget constraint, any limitation on what those wishes will add up to?
I think the first stage of this is to get all the issues on the table.
Yeah.
That's where we're gonna start. And I didn't say that the 4 board members should have individual offices. What I said, we need a workspace that we all can share.
I wasn't picking up on you. It's just an example. I can quite see that if you go to all the department heads, all the constituencies, everybody wants something, and it's gonna be a list a mile long. Is there any cost constraint? Because eventually this is all gonna be paid by taxpayers.
I don't think that we're going to have like a final cost on what the whole project is. And also the town board is going to be looking at it like, if the town clerk comes and she says, I need a space twice the size because of this, I think the consultants are going to evaluate that for reasonableness, also how the public uses the space. And then we as a town board are also going to be like, that's we feel that that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
So,
All I'm saying is there should be some ticket price attached to all those things. Because otherwise, you can put a mile-long list, and who is to pay for it? Taxpayers?
I think
yeah,
you start with a list of what everybody wants, right? And then you go back through and you see what, based on best practices and what's reasonable, what would be considered. But I don't think putting together the list is by, everyone can say what they would like, and then you will, you winnow it down from there.
I think it's important to reframe this conversation also, that this isn't, this process doesn't start with an ask for what would you like. It starts with an evaluation of what you have, what services you offer, and some common sense projections of the kinds of services you'll offer in the future. So if I was to sit in my meeting and say, I need a 1,000 square foot office and I want the town swimming pool to connect to my office, that's not how the conversation would go. It would be about the work that I perform based on my current job description, my interaction with the public, my need for specific space related to my job function, and then some pretty preliminary conversations about how that role might adapt in the future, and if there is a warranted need for additional space, or perhaps even less. These conversations may very likely be about the merger of departments or operations for shared spaces. It's very much about looking at our current facilities to make sure that they are sufficient for the services they offer, but it's also a discussion about what other things can we do with this building? How do we optimize the services that we offer with the spaces that we have? So it's important that we don't look at this like a linear process of what are your problems, what do you want, and how do we get those? It's much more circular about what problems do you have, what spaces do we have available to fit those services and those needs, and how do we make this all fit together in one cohesive puzzle?
Thanks, Joe.
A lot of things that municipalities look at now are flex spaces. So spaces that you can use for one thing during the day that can convert to something else at night because of the type of furniture you put in the space. Maybe it's furniture that now you can move and have an open room and you can do different activities. So it's really about becoming more efficient with the space we do have and figuring out how to utilize it to the maximum extent for the public. So I don't think it's an exercise in creating a laundry list of wishes and wants. It's really looking at needs and how we can best serve the community in the most efficient way possible.
Okay, so at the end, when you whittle down this list of something that you think is reasonable and so forth, will that list, before being approved, subject to some kind of permissive referendum? Because taxpayers will eventually have to fund.
Well, I mean, I think you're getting way ahead of it, but eventually there will be some form of plan that would go before the public. And if it needed bonding for funding, something like that, then it would go to a permissive referendum. But this is really an initial evaluation of what we have, what we need, and what the potential could be. And then I feel like the next phase after this would be to actually engage in developing plans for facilities. Am I right, Joe?
That's right.
And so that's where your referendum would come into play.
Yeah.
So it's not even in this
I'm
phase.
just gonna finish with a statement that like, you should never do what you did with 2 School Street, okay? That when you have capital spending plans, major amounts of taxpayers' money, you should ask voters for permission for things like that.
thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Next, we have a couple of fast items. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the next 2 items should be brief. Housing survey status update. I know that Housing
Yes.
has been trying to solicit firms.
Yeah. So it looks like we have selected someone. I was actually just following up with Fran just to make sure everything was in to Robert Bloom to get the funding released. And Fran just wrote to me about having the selected consultant come join us for a kickoff meeting at the next community housing board. So I was like, sounds great.
So we have a written proposal from them, so we can do a resolution to accept it.
because we
Yeah,
haven't done that
we
yet.
haven't, yeah, I was gonna say, we haven't
I was like,
authorized entering
yeah.
into the agreement with them yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to find out, like,
Yeah.
if the housing board had a recommendation, like they've received all responses and.
Yeah, so they've,
They just.
I mean, I thought we talked about it last time, but
We hadn't actually received anything in writing from
I think
Oh,
we were
yeah.
supposed to get it.
no, so we had talked about it last time and you said, oh, we weren't gonna put it on the thing, and then literally later that day, it got sent. But I think I missed sending it out by like an hour or something like that.
Oh,
Right, so it's in that same email thread, I'm happy to bump
You
it.
bump it, yes.
Sure, of course.
Who was the firm?
And we'll discuss that in executive session, just because they're not selected yet. I just wanted to know, like, status-wise, where we were, because we do have a meeting on Monday, so. if we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
take
yeah,
a look at-
again, I had hoped that it would go in for the last thing, but I was like
Mhm.
an hour too late.
Yes.
So,
Yes, okay, all right.
yep, so I will bump that in everybody's.
Okay. But I know, Barbara Bloom is working with CDBG on providing them with information about the various projects that we have going on for the grant this year. So if we can get moving on that, then we can get that.
Yeah. And like I said, I checked in with Fran just to make sure that, like, does she have everything she needs? Does, if there's another piece that needs to be.
Next item is just CAC mission statement. We want to continue to work with various town committees to update their mission statements. And so the CAC is picking it up. I had missed the last meeting, I was away, but I think they're picking it up to look at it. But Liz, you had some like questions, I think, about like direction that we want to give to CAC so that they.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was clicking to get that other thing up, but let me grab this, no worries. So I know that Howard is whose chairs it is taking a look at it. And I was just, as we were considering, especially this, just because it was top of mind, definitely the CAC mission statement needs a little love, needs a little update. I was just looking at other neighboring towns and the founding legislation just to kind of think about what goes into it and potentially and how other towns kind of use the CAC. A couple items that I thought were really interesting. In some neighboring communities, they use CAC to advise on wetland permits rather than the planning board, just because it's more kind of in the ecological zone. They also, in Southold, they look at new mooring. They reviewed like mooring codes. So I thought that was really interesting for just our consideration. Other items, reporting kind of the efforts of non-official groups that are working on conservation. I thought that would be an interesting thing to consider. And then also, this is what I thought was another point, was part of the founding legislation, founding's the right word, was there was a special call out for having younger members in there. So that, you could be up to 2 folks between the age of 16 and 21. And I actually thought that was really, really interesting, especially it's an interesting perspective on conservation, since it technically will eventually be for them. So just thinking about how to weave all these items in, and just like for consideration, I'm going to bring some of these notes to Howard. But just to kind of put that out there to this board. I thought it was interesting to consider wetlands. I thought that was an interesting thing to see that other communities split those up. And then specifically, one more thing, basically putting in the actual mission, maybe some language about looking for members with experience in environmental sciences, planning, engineering, and law. as just like some guiding principles as we consider adding members. Yeah. So I think those are all my points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think this is a good continuation of the effort that we started, like the WAC revised their mission statement last year. And we've been slowly trying to make it through each committee to kind of update them and get them more focused on their mission and their goals. So I think it's a good step.
Yep. Yeah, I do like number 4, publishing maps that highlight, town resources and the present and planned uses.
And technically that should be part of what they're doing, as well as, I believe, stewardship plans.
Right.
And I think that, maybe looking for what this board is with the expectation of how those should be put together and presented to the public. I think maybe formalizing that a little bit.
Another thing to consider is possibly, I want to say cross-pollinating committees, but having someone from CPF on the CAC, having someone from WMAC on the CAC, just so that you have kind of the perspectives from different committees coming together on this committee.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly which committees would be the most appropriate, but
Green options.
green options would probably be a good one. Just consider like broadening it that way so that you have some expertise from other areas being pulled into the decisions that they're making.
Also like the young adult idea.
Yeah.
And is there a way to tie it into school credit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we pursue that, we should definitely talk to the school to see like whether or not they think there'd be students who'd be interested.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of vacant seats, so one way to fill it with
And
energetic people.
Yeah, and maybe you have those as like flex positions. So if you have folks that are younger that are interested in any given, that they're joining for maybe like a school year, but not.
They could do a semester or something.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not, that part is like to be imagined, but I think it would be great just to get some fresh voices and ideas.
As we review the wetlands code, if we move wetlands from the town board to the planning board, then do we put somebody from the planning board on CAC?
Well, that wouldn't really,
Just to try, or do we just have CAC, well, they'll just continue to,
Don't they?
right, advisory.
I would say,
Yes.
they're advisory, so there's no need to have
Okay,
that.
yeah, I'm just trying to think of, probably actually the planning board.
I
is
think
the
I'm being
whole-
really careful because with that other suggestion, for instance, there are 2 people on the planning board that have years of professional experience doing wetlands work. So you don't want to take it, not put it in the planning board, you put it somewhere else where that expertise doesn't exist. So.
I think that's just like more largely, it doesn't have to be for like today or tomorrow, but like, reimagining outside of the current membership of either committee.
Yeah.
Where those things belong.
Liz and I are the liaisons to CAC, so when they pick this back up at their next meeting, we'll go over this. I'll make sure that there wasn't anything that we were missing that should be considered. Okay. Next item is town board liaison reports. Just move something. Perfect. We've got some open committee positions. I'll start with those. We are looking for a Green Options Committee. We are looking for Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board and Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board. And it's the community, for WQI, it's the community member that we're looking for. because we do have a WMAC member, a WAC member, and a CPF member. And on Thursday, I had no like scheduled appointments, so I was able to go up to the police academy, and John McEnroe graduated from the police academy on Thursday. He's going to be, I think he had like pepper spray training on Friday, maybe something, maybe taser training, where they actually have pepper spray
And tased.
and they get tased, pepper sprayed and tased, which I felt bad because I think Friday night was going to be their graduation party with the, some of them hadn't been through it, so I think they were going to be red-eyed and all. But anyways, it was a very nice ceremony. There was, I think, 100 and, don't quote me on the exact number, like 165 graduates between Suffolk County, neighboring towns that had people, the state troopers, and I think a couple from towns and villages in Nassau County, because they only had a couple, and so they were able to get them into the class. The starting opening of the ceremony showed some of the a video of some of the training that they go through, and it is amazing. I'm almost tempted to bring it, like if we can borrow it from them and play it at a work session at one point, or put it on the town website, just so people understand the type of training that they go through. Like, there were some overachievers who like got awards for like class president and things like that. And after seeing the video, I'm thinking, I just want to get through it, let alone be the top athletic person in my class. But it was very nice. And when
Pepper spray.
so when he comes back,
Tolerated.
he'll do 6, I think it's 6 months of, training with one of our police officers, ride along, whatever they call it. Sure, that's announced this when Chief was here. And then at some point, we will have him come in and do the formal appointment as a police officer. So just wanted to throw that out there. And that's wonderful. And I think that's all that I had. So I don't know what other committees were meeting last week.
CBA, which was just 2 very long hearings on some size variances. I don't know what more to say about that.
There's not much. No, it's
Big zoomed in.
Yeah, usually the only thing that we do with like ZBA is like
If there's code issues.
if there's code issues at the ZBA, like periodically, when I was the liaison a number of years ago, either Phil or Doug Matz before him would say, and maybe you want to consider this code change. This would help us if you consider this. So those types of things. Also, usually I would bring up if there was a special permit or variance that was going to then be coming to us for wetlands. Size is now with that, so
Yeah.
they get to keep them.
I think I only had green options and I lost the crown the night before, so I was the dentist when that meeting happens.
So I went to green options. One of the things that we talked about was solar at the recycling center. So we're trying to work on moving that project forward, and they're gonna come and do a presentation to the town board in, April?
Yes.
Hopefully April, I think I stuck it on the calendar, maybe the 14th. I think April 14th is the work session they requested.
Yes.
And it's, in order to take advantage of the 30% tax break from the federal government, there's a pretty tight timeline we would have to meet. So that's gonna be part of the presentation they give, but right now what they're doing is, I'm having Rob kind of pull all the PSCNG bills for the recycling center for the last year, so they can do an analysis on how much money we would be saving if we were to put the solar up. And then there's also the ability to kind of save on all of our other bills for municipal buildings, because we can aggregate the energy that there's a whole process. So they'll explain all that to us, and it'll be a lovely presentation, but that should be coming up in the next few weeks. So look forward to that. And then I got a message that this Saturday, April 4th, from 9 to 11, there's going to be a beach cleanup hosted by the Long Island Oyster Growers Association to help clean up cages and other debris from the winter. So if you're interested in participating in that, it's this Saturday, April 4th, from 9 to 11, and it's starting everyone's gathering at the Ram's Head Inn, and then they're going to be distributed to different areas from there. And then once it's done, at around 11 o'clock, people will recongregate, and there's oysters and snacks as a thank you for all the help cleaning up the beaches. So this Saturday, what time again? From 9 to 11. And on Shelter Island, it's kicking off at the Ram's Head Inn. They're doing it in different communities all around the East End. So for Shelter Island, that's where we're doing it. It's also happening in Greenport and South Hold. So it's just the community trying to come together and clean up after what we know was a rough winter. And that's kind of all I have right now.
The building department is doing.
Oh, right.
Do you want to?
Yeah, sorry about that. So the building department is doing a contractor education session this Thursday from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock on the new energy code that rolled out in January. It's a very complicated code, and it's going to be a challenge for both the builders and the contractors and for the town when it comes to inspections and enforcement. So we're trying to get everybody educated and up to speed so they understand what the expectations are. And so it's going to be in person here in Town Hall. We're also going to have it on Zoom, and we're going to record it so that we can have it on the YouTube channel and the website for people to watch later. We know that this is kind of the kickoff to spring break, so some contractors said they'll be leaving town early, but they'll watch the videos later. We just want to make sure that everybody is aware of what the new code changes are, because it's very complicated. So that should be interesting. We've already had about 50 people sign up to come
Amazing.
and participate, so.
What's the timing on that again?
April 2nd, Thursday, from 10 to 2. So we are providing sandwiches.
Oh,
So
and the
there's
sandwich.
snacks, because it's right through lunch. But it's,
One way to entice.
if you wanna participate, you have to sign up with Mary Ellen, so we can make sure there are enough chairs.
Yes.
Or you can always sign up and then Zoom in. But yeah, so that'll be this Thursday.
Anything else? I think we covered all the meetings that happened last week. All right, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to review the employment history of a few employees, as well as discuss a couple of contracts and actually a open space acquisition potential.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.